Hello and welcome back to Blood and Ashes. This is episode 92, where we will cover Winter's Heart, chapters 28 through 32. I'm your host Mo, and I'm joined once again by my fellow kidnappers, Willie.
Kidnapped one or two in my life.
And Jody.
You don't have any evidence of any of that. I was at home the whole time. I have an alibi.
Now, at the risk of jumping to the very end of our actual content, it doesn't really feel like much of a kidnapping when there's like the interactions and the body language that's going on at the time. It's like, oh shit, who's actually in trouble? The kidnapper or the kidnappee?
Spoilers, the kidnapper. It's my chapter. I can jump straight into it if I want.
More spoilers. I finished the book. I know I sent you guys a message like during the week or at the end of last week. I had to keep going. Did you guys keep going, or are you up to date? Or
I'm
okay.
Time poor.
Ooh, exciting.
No.
Okay. Yeah, everything
I
is
had
happening.
big plans. I made so many plans for work, for life, for everything that I failed in everything. As you know, and to the listeners, my brother is here on holidays visiting. And I should not have made any plans because I had to cancel them all. I missed like 2 work meetings on Friday. I forgot about them completely.
Oh my gosh. My dad would always say, life is what happens when you're making other plans.
Yeah, 'tis true.
Speaking of life happening, for this episode, I'm coming in a little bit hot with as much preparation as I normally do, or like with not as much preparation as what I normally do because of my recent medical situation. It was touch and go whether we'd be able to record this weekend at all, but here I am, towing the line for the fans, doing it for the good people of the Blood and Ashes podcast community.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I don't have too many notes. I was just saying to the guys before we started recording more pages than I usually do, but that's because I'm doing a chapter summary as well, I think, and we've got quite a few callbacks to go through as well, which are pretty exciting. But the contents of these chapters, while I don't have a lot of notes, is pretty exciting, right? Like I've got a couple of interesting little tidbits, but it's pretty action, where the last couple of episodes have been far more set up and maneuvering, people arriving and farmadding and people, posturing and throwing attitudes at each other and Shalon deducing things about Ice Die. Here we've got like a full-on Ocean's 11 style escape happening, right? Like all the setup and stuff is actually like, I got that whole vibe. I almost had like this like lo-fi like heist movie music playing in the background the whole time while I was reading this content. It's so cool.
When you said heist earlier, like you said Ocean's 11, I had that music in my brain playing like the second. I know that music. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's really good. So look, I've got, obviously, like I said, I've got a chapter summary that I sort of adapted from some of the Tarvalon library summaries and some of my previously on Blood and Ashes podcast. Is also a somewhat edited version of what I got on there. But I had a bit of a medical situation this week and I didn't have nearly as much time. I lost a number of days out of my normal prep cycle that I couldn't win back. So just bear with me. And with all of that said and done, should we dive into it?
That's why we're all here.
I would patiently wait.
Billy's just sitting ready to just go. Okay, well, let's take care of some more housekeeping before we get into the new chapters and look backwards in everybody's favorite section called Callbacks.
Really feel like I want to drop in a different delivery every time you say that. It was like, everybody loves Raymond.
I'm priming you. Your Pavlovian response is going, is it Raymond? Is it ice cream? Okay, in the previous episode, I said Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is PG-13 or something. So I went and I looked it up. On IMDb, it's only rated PG. Remember we were talking about Villy's perception of the death blow being a ripping out of the heart, and we were talking about the Temple of Doom, and I just laughed because it's only rated PG, but on IMDb there's this section. Parents need to know that Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom is the second film in the Indiana Jones series. In addition to the expected fight scenes, this one has potentially nightmare-inducing scenes like a man's beating heart being torn right out of his chest. Children are also nearly worked to death in mines, and there are lots of gross-out moments, including the eating of monkey brains and live snakes. Language includes one shit, bastards, oh my god, and for Christ's sake as an exclamation. There's flirting, sexual banter, and kissing throughout the film, including a scene where Indy, Harrison Ford, initiates sex with a woman by referring to it as research into nocturnal activities. She responds by calling it primitive sexual practices. Depictions of Asians, especially Indians and Hindus, are alarmingly racist, though Chinese-American actor Ke Huy Kwan's positive portrayal of Short Round is a bright spot.
Wow.
People were a lot more hardcore back in the day, like Kids PG. Like that's another, you know.
Amazing.
That is a trigger warning if you've ever seen one.
I mean, I'll be honest, it kind of makes me want to go see it now.
Yeah.
I remember the monkey brains, that scene where they're all sitting in that temple and they have that big feast and they bring out all that weird food and cut open a big snake and all the little live snakes come out and they eat those. Yeah.
Uh-huh. I believe it was
watched that
chilled
not
monkey
long
brains.
ago.
Like those
Yes.
those monkey heads were frozen.
Yes.
Because no one would eat warm monkey brains. I mean, come on.
Who would dare?
That's the worst.
Okay, back to Wheel of Time content. And yes, Jody Reimer Gelfrey, now Pura the Damane, was from the Yellow Arger, as you had said.
I've written it in my notes again today, so thanks for the... I'm doubling down.
Vinny, we were talking about the diadem and the diademed battle lord moniker and whether, you know, it could be a reference to the Hidori. And I just went and checked, but the Hidori is worn by all Malkirian men, not just the nobles. So not quite the diadem of a diademed battle lord. We spoke about the Guardian Terangriel in Farmadding, and I was sort of wondering, like, how far outside of the wider bubble where men can't channel, how far outside of that can it actually detect men channeling? Because we know Narishma went off on a little side mission to channel so that Varen could talk about it and draw attention to it in the conversation with the First Council. So I went and I did a bit of a scavenge. Couldn't find anything about the specific range, but there were a couple of interesting notes that I did find about it. So here goes. We assumed it was created during the breaking to ward off the men going crazy, right? Like the men going crazy everywhere, so they built this place to ward them off so that, you know, it's a safe spot during the breaking. Serene herself says as much, Joe, like, so that's where the idea comes from in the text, using the words, it must have been created during the breaking, but with no mention of actually how many years. The thing is, they don't actually know how old it is or when it was created. And on Reddit, I found an interesting thread where someone was asking, so if it was created to protect them, like Serene implies, from the men going crazy, why was it also created to block women from channeling? So that doesn't make any sense because you're taking away one of your primary defenses against men that can channel or any kind of influences from the breaking, right? So then the post that I had found is from 2 years ago. A user, AidDub, said, Rand has a throwaway line in Towers of Midnight where he refers to the Inkastar, those afraid of progress, in reference to Aaron Deshar, as Farmadding was known in the Age of Legends. My take is that these Inkastar were similar to the Amish, living a non-technological or one-power equivalent lifestyle, and that the Guardian was created by the Second Age Aes Sedai to give these people somewhere to congregate. To which a user, KFC Conspiracy, replied with, I wonder if that's a reference to Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where much of the Amish community lives. Which seems
Probably.
really, really cool. Because that's a valid question. Why block Sidar as well if you're just trying to protect yourself from the men? And it clearly is two sections, right? So it's not like it's one thing that accidentally just cuts everyone off. It seems purposeful.
Yeah.
So that's cool. That's going to be my headcanon from now on.
Yeah.
That was an experiment even way before then.
Could
and
be.
just perhaps townspeople figured out like, whoa, you can't channel here. It's like, cool, this is a great place to build a house. The witches can't touch me here. Like, let's start this. And the name was like, the witches can't touch you. Build, live, freedom.
I think the first thing they built probably was a barn altogether. Helping each other
Raised it
out.
together, yes.
Yes, of course.
And a bowling alley.
Tis a fine barn, English, but tis no pool.
If Kingpin taught me anything, that they also loved bowling.
Yes.
As far as for channeling into Farmadding, like we, were sort of thinking about, like, why don't you stand outside it and throw fireballs into it? Apparently, Nynaeve believes it can be done and says as much in A Gathering Storm when Rand threatens to do just that. So in Gathering Storm, Rand is like, I'll just stand outside formatting and throw stuff into it. And Nynaeve says, I think that will work. So at least in the text of the books, there is someone that agrees with us that you could stand just outside of the range and lob shit into it.
Yes, of course.
Mm-hmm. Sticking with Farmadding, but now one of its denizens, why was Varen wanted in Farmadding? She was exiled for being able to channel, that much is known. But the same would be true for Catswain, surely, right? Like, Catswain can also channel. Catswain is not having to use a false name. There's no mention of warrants for Catswain's arrest or anything like that. Varen definitely has something outside of being able to channel. So, I remembered, wasn't there something she mentioned briefly once about killing a man that sort of was making advances on her or something? And while looking up a different callback, I found it by chance. So in the prologue of The Path of Daggers, Varen thinks to herself, a fellow had once told her that her smile had made him think of his dead mother. She had hoped he had not been lying about that, at least. He had tried to slide a dagger between her ribs later, and her smile had been the last thing he ever saw. So maybe she murdered someone in Farmadding.
In Farmadding, yeah.
Maybe that's why there's a warrant out for her arrest. I mean, that would certainly warrant a warrant.
Yeah, and probably she might, maybe she wouldn't have gotten fair trial in Farmadding being a channeler, so she just left. Like, how's she going to prove that he tried to kill her first?
Yes. Maybe. All of this is just pointing at, like, Varen's, like, really, like, secret and dodgy and, like, quite almost menacing past, right? Like she's killed a guy, she almost poisoned Catswain, like, all of this stuff is making you think, like, Varen is capable of some dastardly deeds. We spoke about how after Egwene and Elaine are talking in Dream Emond's Field about Egwene taking the army to Tarvalon the next day. It seems natural for people to feel like this is a slog because things haven't really moved overall in the timeline. You know, do you remember I was talking about that, like saying like, okay, maybe this is part of that reason. But I remember that Egwene did wait for a month in Mirande before traveling to Tarvalon. So her scheming and maneuvering might not have taken place exactly during the events of this book, you know, when she's taking over the Rebel Hall and stuff. It's more that there's a time jump in the Path of Daggers forward by a month. After her scheming and taking control of the Rebel Hall, they camp out and rest the army before they travel en masse to Tarvalon. So when we heard the armies listed earlier in this book and heard of armies in Mirande, Egwene's is likely included in that rumor, especially considering how long it takes news to travel. And the events of Winter's Heart likely took place after the bulk of Path of Daggers, but Path of Daggers had jumped ahead right at the end to show the rebels depart Mirande, and Winter's Heart ignored that time jump and went back to the main timeline. And then in big bold letters in my notes, or something like that.
I could be completely wrong about everything I just said.
Yes, exactly.
Grain of salt.
Gotcha. Then also, the callback I was actually looking for when I found the Varen one is in the Path of Daggers prologue, where the Borderlander leaders meet in the Black Hills. Pytar brings 8 Aes Sedai with him and Tenobia 5, so they have at least 13 with them at that point. Remember, we made a big deal about like it being 13. And now Elaine going and meeting the leaders like
dangerous
got
number.
At least 10, maybe more. Yeah, so who knows how they came and went between then and now. But yeah, they had at least 13 with them at one point. And yes, Willie, 13 is a dangerous number. When we spoke about the siege plans for Camelin and Elaine sort of like sending everyone out, like, you know, she barks off all those orders and then she sends them off to go. And one of the things is buy all the food from around the city. And we were saying, like, you can travel, lady. Like, what is the haste for buying all this food? I sort of mumbled something in the background about, like, you know, maybe it would be really hard to be a full-time job to do it via traveling. Like, you'd have to set up a place and people to sort of, you know, make sure the gateways don't kill people and to, you know, send the carts out to places that haven't had people sent out to, people actually making multiple gateways all the time, blah, blah, blah. But then I realized after the recording, another good reason would be if you buy up and consume all the food around the city, there's nothing for the army that's laying siege to the city. They would have to go and find food somewhere else. So you're just making it a little bit harder for them.
Makes sense. That tracks. I was just thinking how rad it would be if they could just tie off a gateway weave and then just build this frame around it with stone so no one gets sliced, and then they can just hand chickens for fish, like all the way down
Well,
to.
I coincidentally,
I mean-
just in my research now, just figured out or learned that it is super unsafe to tie off a gateway. Gateways start acting erratically and stuff. So even the Ashaman and Rand stopped doing that at one point. So there's an in-world description.
They can use like what those people use to put the pizza inside the oven, like move the fish like at a distance.
We've seen
Through
what
the
happens to
gate hole.
gateways when they unravel. I don't think a pizza spade is going to make any difference. I'm an extra 2
A
feet
pizza
away from the
spade
opening. I'm
and
safe.
And like a mask. I
mean-
mean, some
Oh
eye
yeah,
goggles.
safety goggles,
Safety goggles,
That'll-
some PVE. What is it called?
Yeah.
PVE. That's player versus enemy. Sorry, that's a gaming term. What is the
PPN, personal
protection?
PPP,
Something like that.
PPE.
PPE. Personal
PPE.
protection equipment.
That's it.
Oh,
There you
we
go.
got there. Thanks, Joe. You spared me a call back there.
Yeah, there was lots of corruption regarding that during COVID, so it's like a term that's in my brain now.
I know. Yeah. Like, why do I know what that is? Oh, yes. Thanks, COVID.
Yeah.
And then the last one of our callbacks is, Joe, you had a 50% chance of getting it right, but you missed. Gateways require the channeler to know their current location well enough so that they could open a gateway to the bottom of the ocean. They don't need to know the location at the bottom of the ocean well. They need to know where they are well. Skimming is the one that requires you to know the destination well. So yes, they could right now open
Maybe.
a gateway to the bottom of the ocean. The previous conversation we had about like getting supplies via gateway. I mean, you can get real creative. You can create horizontal gateways as well. They start to learn to do that in A Memory of Light or towards the end of the series. And you can just like put up a big net, put a gateway above it and a gateway below it, and have a river just like flow through it and just catch any fish that are in that water, and then close the gateways, and then you've got a net full of fish.
We should write a sequel to this series. Or like in-world.
The gateways, if they're traveling
Manuals.
between like these vast distances, clearly one side would have a high pressure and the other side a low pressure, and you'd have like this rush of wind that goes through the gateway when it opens up. So they never have that. So that
Don't they,
maybe
though?
water won't go.
I mean, we haven't
through.
seen it recently, you know, but like,
I haven't. And in any of this, I haven't ever had this. As the gateway opened up, the wind started rushing through.
no.
That's really... my brain is working overtime now. In a battle, open a gateway into space over the Trolloc army and just suck them all
Yeah,
into
vacuum.
space. There we go.
There we go. Now, look, at the risk of
I'll start mine.
touching on Memory of Light spoilers, they do use gateways in pretty interesting ways in the final battle. So our
Oh, yeah.
let's write it off to inexperience. They've just rediscovered this talent. They're just stoked that they can teleport. They haven't actually put their heads into it yet. But Android,
Maybe they don't even know what
they've
space
got
is.
this magic power that they can use. I mean, there's just so much. Like gateway under the whole army's feet to the middle of the ocean.
Okay, but that's a big gateway.
And not even in the water.
a
Just like,
gateway the size of an army. That's a tall
they've
order.
got to put in Carl.
Willie, just sit tight, bro. You're going to see. I can remember a specific thing that they do in the final battle that is really cool, and it is very much along the lines that you're thinking of. Plus death gates.
yeah, death gates.
And Kud and Cole are going to be a bit of an issue after this book.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. That's good stuff. We'll get to that. But before we do, we will quickly hop into some listener contributions. Kiwi Gerald writes in and says, "Hi, I'm back. I was waiting for a better result from the Rugby Championship. Thank you, Argentina. Quick thoughts while listening to the latest episode. I was making notes on the previous one, but then took a 2-week holiday in Perth, so they didn't get finished. My 2 cents on Matt's head dice. I think they start rolling to get him aware of something that he needs to pay attention to is about to happen, and then stop when that event is right in front of him. Pretty nice of the creator, or who else, to give him that inbuilt alarm clock. I'm going to take at least partial credit for Zere, who is a new listener contributor last time, if you recall. Gerald says, I hope I'm spelling that correctly. Just for your notes, Gerald, you did not spell it correctly. And for fun, I'm not going to tell you how to spell it. Take partial credit for Zero for joining the band of listeners. Should we all get red hand badges or something? Because I regularly promote this podcast to Reddit users in the Wheel of Time sub who post that they have just finished the books and don't know what to do now. He may not have received one of my promotions, but I've suggested you guys to many people, so I'll take that partial credit. And I will give it to you gladly, Gerald. Thank you. You are doing the creator's work.
I don't. I think you should use some sort of tracking software to find out where all these people are coming from. Google
Gerald,
Analytics or something.
Gerald continues with, I thought I would wade into this 3 Oaths conflab. I think I've mentioned in the past that the Aes Sedai need the 3 Oaths if they're going to be seen at the highest levels of government as advisors, etc., because then they can be trusted. But they are the obvious channelers in the world. The kin, etc., are not obvious or widely known as channelers. They are seen as healers, or what was it Nynaeve was called? A wisdom. He's being sarcastic. He goes, what was it Nynaeve was called? Oh, a wisdom. So they're not known channelers. Wise Ones and Windfinders are known channelers, but with the respect that their station has in their culture, which is again different to the general Randland population. Agree, Gerald. He then goes, shoulder length hair, Rand? Would it be Keanu Reeves, aka John Wick style, or would he put it in a man bun and get all hipster looking? I'm leaning John Wick.
I'm leaning more like Aussie, like AFL style. What do they call those hairstyles?
Like a mullet.
Yeah.
Mullet. Yeah, he's got a mullet. He shaved the sides.
Not
He's got like a
front
dirty mustache.
Well, the maidens, a lot of them have what I imagine are like mullets, like short cropped hair and a long tail of hair at the back. Either a rat tail or a mullet. Very Aussie.
Very much.
Gerald says, I think that's about it for this week. Keep up the good work, guys. Gerald, at least everyone lost to Argentina this year.
Hey, we still won.
Yes. I'm sorry to our non-rugby watching fans, but this banter between New Zealand and South Africa will continue forever.
It's been going on for 100 years. It's not stopping now.
No time soon. Then Jonna Pierce is on a roll with the following multimedia contributions, and her first voice note goes like this.
Hi guys, Jonna Pierce here, reaching out from listening to episode 83, the finale for The Path of Daggers. I just wanted to share my feelings on poor Roland and how he meets his end. You guys mentioned kind of feeling bad for him. And, if I remember his story correctly, I just want to say he deserves a little more than that, at least in my opinion. He was the one who took Fael, but he also saved her repeatedly during her captivity from horrors that would be a lot worse than what she did endure. She went through some hard stuff, but I believe he saved her from being raped repeatedly by other Shido. And I think, I couldn't find it in the books, but I think if I remember correctly, he pulled her out of the building that they were all stuck in. And when he saw Perrin, he didn't know who Perrin was. He didn't know that Fael was, his wife. So he was trying to protect Fael even in his last moments. And got taken down like hard, which of course Perrin had to do, but gosh, I do feel real horrible for him. Running out of time. Thanks a lot. Talk to you guys later.
Okay, so before you guys comment on that note, Jonna also sent in a message where she addresses her voice note, and that goes like this. It goes, hello again. Okay, couple things here. First, I basically immediately regretted leaving the message about giving Roland more credit for being an okay guy, because I forgot how bad he is directly to her in this first part. I hadn't read ahead at all, and I think I remember that he took her, but I didn't recall his pulling her around by the hairs and such. I was only remembering what I think is still to come, where he is more of a protective person in the situation. As you said, they are a hard people and there's no issue with mistreatment of Guy Shane. I do think he protects her from worse things, but I'm holding out to see exactly how much. I'm wondering if I'll feel as bad for him later as I recalled feeling when I left that message. Also, I'd like to throw in my agreement that I'm looking forward to this slog, quote unquote, more due to this podcast, but I recalled this book being nothing but Perrin chasing Fail, and I guess it's more spread out than I remember, so I'm wondering exactly how much I forgot. I always remember this being the beginning, but I've apparently smashed several of these books into one or shuffled around these events, so I'm curious now to see what really happens. I'm reaching out while listening to the same episode 85 I've already left another voice message about. You are talking about when Perrin touches Gaul on the chest and all the maidens spread out. You mentioned they are still veiled, and I believe they acted weird because that's how one is made Guy Shane, to be touched by an enemy in battle without causing harm. At that moment, they are not sure if Perrin is an enemy, and of course he makes that clear by his asking of them to find Fail, but until that moment, I wonder if they were like, ooh, what's he doing? Also, I bet you can buy Guy Shane or trade for them. I've heard something somewhere in one of the earlier books about them being given away, and like you mentioned, the Shadow might not let this girl go, so he's going to get her and make her his slave. I'm sure he's got some plan to make sure Chayad comes back with him. I think she's talking about Gaul making Chayad his slave, or ensuring that he gets her to be his Guy Shane. You also asked if first-time readers know Galena is red. I think Jono means black. Didn't she say something about the Great Lord when she's in the sack over the fire right before she gives the new oaths to Thirava? I went back to check, and yes, she reveals herself during her point of view in Crown of Swords chapter 40. You might already have this info since I'm behind, but in case not, there it is. That's all I've got for now. Thanks again for your amazing work. A lot there. Yes, Jono, we'll get to Roland, and he is not the one that actually saves. He's on his way to save Fail from that building and that collapse during that attack when Perrin and the other forces come to save Fail. So his intention was to do that, but he doesn't actually do that. So he doesn't quite get himself out of our bad books just yet. And I did the same thing with book 9, because Perrin and the snow and everything is on the cover of the book. You feel like this book is the one where he's just like trudging through the snow trying to find Fail, but it's only in the very beginning, like we've said in a couple of episodes now. It's just the very beginning, and then the rest is not Perrin at all. So I think the majority of that chase actually happens in book 10. Maybe that's why book 10 is also stuck in my head as the one where it's mostly Andorran politics and the siege and Perrin slogging through the snow. But Jonna alluded to a second voice note in her last message, and that one goes like this.
Hi guys, Jonna Pierce reaching out from the past again. I've made it to episode, I think it's like 85, the first set of chapters for Winter's Heart. You guys are talking about the breakdown of the members of the Black Ajah and how it's pretty even split through the different colors. I'm wondering if Robert Jordan did that on purpose to kind of make it so that it wasn't like any one single, one held the most or anything to make them strictly look that bad. I feel like maybe, I wonder if it was even split intentionally anyway. Also, I did my own chart, and I had paused the show, and like before you mentioned doing a chart, and then I unpaused it and you didn't mention doing a chart, and it just made me laugh. Anyways, have a great day.
Thanks, Jonna. You have a great day too. I'm glad you got some joy out of the chart. I just straight up copied that from the fandom wiki, so I won't take any credit for that. Just back to Galena. I think we had said in a previous episode that Galena actually outs herself in that meeting with the Shido when Gawain also finds out from that random merchant that Rand apparently killed his mother, and the Aes Sedai embassy from Elida make a deal with Savannah and the Shido. The younglings are all there. I think that's the first time you read from Galena's point of view, and I think she's already given away her Black Archer affiliation there. And then about the spread across the Argers, I have to agree. While also not making one Arger the obvious bad guys, although, I mean, who from the Reds can you like except for Pavara? It also shows that nobody is safe from the temptations of the Dark One. It makes it clear that anybody is on some level susceptible to the allure of power and immortality, and it keeps the threat of the Shadow consistent and pervasive. I love that he did that it's not just like the vast majority of the Black Archer sisters come from the Red Archer or anything, right? Like there are blues, there are whites, there are some of our favorite Archers. They almost have an equal number of Black Archer sisters in them, and I think that helps up the threat. Like it's not super obvious who is a dark friend or Black Archer. Then I somehow missed this earlier contribution from Rowan, but have now conveniently been reminded of it by Rowan. So strap in Jody and Cadswain haters, my backup is coming.
Oh dear.
I did have one other thought. Mo, I think it was you that said you're starting to warm to Cadswain. To be perfectly honest, I never really disliked Cadswain. I know that she was kind of going a bit against Rand at one point and trying to manipulate him, but so is everybody. And I kind of feel like she was, okay, yeah, she was trying to manipulate him, but she was doing it coming from kind of a good place with the idea of trying to ensure that he gets to where he needs to be and he has the right tutelage and he can be strong enough to do what he needs to do. I almost kind of likened her to a bit of a forerunner of Moiraine. So, like, she was essentially on, or she's always essentially been on his side. And maybe sometimes that involves her doing things that are against what he wants and against what we might want for him. But I think that she's always come from a good place and maybe has got a bit of a hard rap in terms of the dislike people have for her. And I think the fact that she's from this older generation and she doesn't take any shit from anyone, I see as a massive positive, and I've always liked her.
What do you say to that, Jody?
Maybe I should not say anything. Look, Rowan, I know you're a doctor, mate, but I'm not going to take your word for this. I don't like her. Never will. She is old school, and yeah, it doesn't give her... that's not an excuse. Stop being like that.
Hey, man. She probably went years and years into the studying and probably thought that the dragon's coming might be while she was in her prime. So she G'd up her whole life for this. Like, to be there, to be the one.
Maybe.
And again, Moiraine out of the picture, they needed to put someone in to fill a similar role.
She absolutely does. Yeah. I mean, remember Rand and Moiraine used to have screaming matches and stuff. You know, like they were often at odds. But we love Moiraine. But it's because she... I was going to say because she doesn't sort of... You know, held herself... She's not as aloof and holds herself as like so much better than everyone else. But she kind of did.
I think that's a nice to die thing.
Won't she just become a version of Cadswain in the end herself then?
Likely.
That's where Moraine's heading.
I can see that. For sure.
Yeah. Look, everything Rowan said, all his arguments for why she's doing the things she's doing, 100% understand that.
Yeah.
I understand where she's coming from. You have your reasons and everything. It's just the execution, I think, is a little off.
It's like with
Cadswain's execution.
That's the age part.
She's just a grumpy old lady.
I was going to say, Jody, like it's like we say to the girls, like it's not that the food is yucky, it's just not to your taste. So Cadswain isn't, you're not saying Cadswain is bad, she's just not to your taste. Doesn't she have like a bit of a clash with Tam at some point? Like she tries to use Tam to also bring Rand back down to earth, and when Tam realizes that he's been manipulated by her, he confronts her and they have like a big clash. So I'm going to keep an eye. That's what I think happens. It's my shady memory. That's not because of anything I've read. But I'm going to see if I can get this sort of like mom and dad are fighting vibe from Cadswain and Tam over Rand and what's best for him.
Like I say, it's not from anything I've read. You have read it, Moritz. It's coming from something
recently.
Twice.
I should qualify.
Yeah, I think he calls her a bully or something. Yeah, there's some.
I mean,
there's a confrontation. I don't know.
That
I don't think it's a massive mom and dad fight. Yeah, in front of Rand, and he storms out crying.
Okay,
sounds like a skit from freaking Family Guy.
It's that sound I just made did sound very Family Guy-ish. Okay, then the last one. I'm excited to report Mick Halverson is also chiming in again, and he sends in the following message.
Hi guys, Mick Halverson here. just wanted to chime in on your conversation about Sunday from the last episode, because Sunday comes up again in this next lot of chapters. So I went and looked it up on the Wheel of Time wiki, and Sunday is actually the Midsummer Festival, not just the 7th day of the week. Anyway, keep up the good work. Still enjoying the podcast and enjoying the reread with you guys.
There we go. Nice one. Thanks, Mick.
Short and sweet.
When the bubble of illusion was burst by putting in a modern day term in there, you have now successfully patched my bubble and it's back.
I'm not still clear on how these days work. So Sundays, is he saying Sunday's the 7th day? So the last day of the 10-day week is not Sunday.
No, he's saying it's not that. It's not the day of the week. The Sunday is the Midsummer Festival day. There's like it's like a public holiday.
There's
or
one
Festival of
Sunday
the
a year.
Birds,
It's
something
it's
like that.
summer
Yes.
solstice, or what do you call it when it's the longest day?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and that it's not just the 7th day of the week like we use it.
Okay.
So there is a perfectly rational in-world reason to use the word Sunday.
Gotcha.
Just not for a day.
Yes. Well,
But is there a reason
day.
to use the word Ottoman?
Brandon. Okay.
Brandon on the show. Explain yourself, Brandon. Send us a voice note.
All right, gents, that is it for callback. So we can quickly recap the last episode and launch into it. So without any further ado, let's go through what happened previously on Blood and Ashes. Cadsuane and her entourage of Aes Sedai, Ashman Seafolk, and warders arrive at the Hall of the Councils in Far Madding. They meet with the First Council, Elise Barasala, who is not exactly glad to see Cadsuane. And when Cadsuane introduces Hareen and Shalon, Elise invites him to stay with her at her home. And thanks to a premeditated plan from Cadsuane, Hareen insists that Cadsuane and her entourage also stay with him. Before Cadsuane can embarrass Elise any further, another plan kicks into gear when Narishma channels outside the boundary of the Guardian's simulated steading. Varen, who's using the fake name Edwina, conveniently draws everyone's attention to the fact that a man has channeled nearby, turning the conversation to men channeling channeling much more recently, and Elise admitting that there are Ashaman about and that they're welcome in the city as long as they keep the peace. This is also an opportunity for Shalon and the readers to be educated on how the Guardian works. They depart soon after, but not before Hareen and Shalon share a tender moment and agree to find out what Cadsuane is up to. We then swing to Rand, who's chilling out, playing the flute and smiling at Min when she frets about Alana and Olivia. Rand explains there's a big difference between Olivia killing him and helping him die, which is what Min's original words to him were. When there's a knock at the door and Rand confirms it's Alana according to their bond, Min throws herself on top of Rand so Alana can have no doubt about who he belongs to. Only the first person through the door is Cadsuane, followed by Alana. Cadsuane plays aloof and unfazed by Rand's presence or plans, and when his rudeness bubbles out in the form of some cursing, she gives him a full-arm slap to make his ears ring. She's out of warnings. Rand takes it and adjusts how he addresses her begrudgingly. Cadsuane casually drops the fact that Hopple, Narishma, and Flynn have been bonded by Aes Sedai in her party, and Rand is shocked. She, however, plays it down and tells him he'll have to ask them when he questions their reasons. Cadsuane leaves with a reluctant Min in tow so that Alana and Rand can catch up. Alana wants to know what Rand did to knock her out, and he alludes to being bonded to another without giving away how many others and whom they might be. Alana is outraged and tries to slap him as well, but he catches her hand and warns her. When Rand asks her to release the bond, she says she's considered it and even offered it to Cadsuane, who was appalled by the idea. She has decided, however, that she will keep the bond. She tells him he left the Ashaman no choice but to bond with Aes Sedai, as they were not safe and they were afraid of returning to the Black Tower. She also tells him Flynn has figured out to heal Stilling. She also tells Rand she has been taught how to travel, so he won't be able to elude her forever. Rand says, okay, then do the following job for me, and sends her on an errand to collect some Aes Sedai Min had said would be loyal to Rand and approach the rebels in Tyr and come to terms with them as long as Darlin Cisnera remains the steward. When she leaves pouting about being sent away again, Rand ponders how he can attract Cadsuane's attention. He knows Min said he needs her, so he has to play the game she's playing. We then switch to Varen, who arrives in Cadsuane's room to see Elsa Penfell losing her cool at Cadsuane. Cadsuane dismisses the Black Archer sister and asks Varen to pour some tea while she tells Varen some of her thoughts. What Varen hears convinces her Cadsuane is doing what she needs her to do and decides not to poison her as she was prepared to do right then and there. We then jump to Egwene and Elaine walking through Eamon's Field in Tel'aran'rhiod. The village has changed significantly, now sporting a fortified wall, an industrial district, large multi-story buildings, and a war memorial from the Battle of the Two Rivers. Elaine thinks to herself she needs to make sure they stay loyal to Andor when she spots the Red Eagle banner of Manetheren. When Elaine suggests Egwene visit Emansfield in the real world, Egwene says the village is not ready to receive her as Amaryllis yet, and she turns to Aes Sedai business, stating her concern about rumors of Rand tying Aes Sedai to him by making them swear fealty. They depart, and when Elaine wakes in the palace, she's immediately pulled into Andor administration duties. She thinks about her pregnancy while everyone fusses about her in her quote-unquote state. Doyle and Mellar tells her Halwyn Norrie needs to see her, and Elaine lays on the charm for Mellar, much to Avienda's consternation. Elaine is trying to encourage the rumors that her pregnancy is thanks to Mellar, drawing attention away from the fact that she's carrying the Dragon Reborn's child/children. Elaine receives Norrie, who gives her various financial reports and some information from further afield, including the Borderlander army in Bram Wood and Rand's Aes Sedai shenanigans. When he leaves, it's Reen Harfer's turn, and she gives Elaine an update on her quest to root out spies in the palace. She's been quite successful. Afterwards, Avienda makes Elaine go for a walk outside. They see Rianne open a gateway to check if Merilil is ready to return from her meeting with the Borderlander rulers, and Merilil rides through the gateway. Elaine and Avienda hurry down to Elaine's sitting room, where they find Merilil, Birgitte, and Captain Mellar waiting for them. Merilil tells Elaine that she has spoken to all of the rulers and observed the camps. There are over 200,000 soldiers, and while they are not starving, they don't have a lot of food. There are also at least 10 Aes Sedai with the army, although they try to stay hidden. The rulers want to meet Elaine because they know she has a connection to Rand. Elaine announces that she will meet with them immediately, but sends Merilil ahead with the message. Merilil is psyched about avoiding the sea folk and scurries off to prepare. Avienda and Birgitte try and talk Elaine out of going, but she persists. Birgitte wants to take a full bodyguard with them, but Elaine says that it will only be her, Birgitte, and Avienda. She does not want to be seen as the daughter heir of Andor, but as an Aes Sedai with her warder. Elaine asks Vandine a few questions about the Borderlanders in preparation, dresses in plain but elegant greens like an Aes Sedai instead of royalty, and they go down to the travelling yard where Rianne makes a gateway for them since she knows roughly where the camp is. Elaine, Avienda, and Birgitte follow Merilil's tracks through the snow, with Birgitte and Avienda worrying over Elaine's pregnant condition. When they reach the Shinaran camp, there are soldiers waiting for them, and they are led to a tent where Merilil is waiting with Isar, Ethniel, Pytar, and Tenobia, and everyone is introduced. Elaine tells the rulers that she knows they are there because of Rand, and she wants to know exactly what they want. Ethniel tells her that they have marched all this way only to find that no one knows where the Dragon Reborn is to be found. They want to know if Elaine knows where he is. Isar says that the war against the Shadow is fought along the Blight, and yet Rand does not concern himself with the Borderlands. Elaine tells them that she does not know exactly where Rand is, but that apparently he intends to remain where he is for some time. She says that she can give them the general idea, but only if they march south within a week. They puzzle out that Elaine wants them to move south into Andor because the Andorans will see them as an invading army and will hopefully band together behind Elaine. When the Borderlanders reach Camelin, Elaine will quote-unquote negotiate them into leaving Andor without any fighting. They all agree, Tenobia adding the condition that she gets to see her uncle, Davram Bashir, who is with Rand. Elaine tells him that Bashir is near Camelin, and a search for Rand in Mirundi would be profitable. Sneaky Aes Sedai twisting of words, though. Rand is actually somewhere toward Tyr. Farmadding is in that line between Camelin and Tyr, but Elaine's words are true. A search in Mirundi would be profitable for her, since she hopes that it will force Arathel, Luan, and Pelavar, the Andoran nobles that had met with Egwene on the border of Mirundi, to support her. None of the rulers seem overly exultant at receiving this information on Rand. Elaine, Birgitte, Avienda, and Merilil make their goodbyes and ride back to where they had arrived through the gateway. Elaine weaves the gateway and they ride through it and make their way towards the palace. Elaine is exhausted and nearly falls asleep on the saddle. Birgitte begins to carry her into the palace, but Halwyn Norrie arrives with news for Elaine. There are 4 small armies approaching from the east with 20 or 30,000 men. He does not yet know who is leading them. Although Elaine is still exhausted, she leaps into defense mode, giving out orders. Master Norrie is to begin buying as much food as possible at first light. Birgitte is to announce that the mercenaries have 4 days to either leave the city or sign up with the guards. Master Norrie is to announce to the people that they may leave the city before the siege begins. Merilil is to let the kinswomen know, and Atha and Mia know, so that they can leave if they want to as well. And Birgitte is to bring maps to her apartments. She thinks to herself, there's no time for sleep, for she has a city to defend. Phew! And that brings us to our first chapter today, which is chapter 28, called News in a Cloth Sack. What news do you have for us, Jody?
I got some stuff to say.
Say
But
it.
just on that recap, that's like the longest recap
I'm out
you've
of
ever
breath.
had. I zoned out there for a while.
Recap. That was like
Re-record the last episode.
Okay.
Yes. But I did find some stuff in your recap. I was like, oh, yeah, that did happen. Thanks, Marts. That's
pleasure.
what I'm trying to say. I know it seems like an attack, but it's not.
mine was kind of a little bit like, jeez, summarize that stuff a little bit more condensed.
Take forever. And also, I feel there's a missed opportunity. I've got to say this before I start. When you say Dream Emansfield, it should have just been Dreamansfield.
Dreamansfield.
From now on,
of
it will.
course.
It will be.
It will.
It's like, there's a car rental company called Malaga Car, and every time I see one of those stickers, I go, why didn't you call it Malacar? That would have sounded way cooler. Pisses me off to this day. Anyway, chapter 28, you say?
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's the morning after Matt has agreed to help the Aes Sedai, so not a slog. Things are moving.
Yeah.
It's only been 24 hours. Not even, like 8 hours. Since he's agreed to help the Aes Sedai escape. And he is lying now in Tylen's bed, basking in the afterglow. She tells him that she is going away with Suroth on Tuon's command to go and see her kingdom with her own eyes. Apparently looking at maps is not good enough. She has to get out there. And she'll be gone at least a week.
Patronizing. Like,
What?
you're too dumb to understand this is a map. I'll take you in a big flying creature.
I think she wants Matt to herself. She wants Tylen
That's
gone.
exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. But yes, patronizing. She is the daughter of the Nine Moons, I think.
Mm-hmm.
That's just part of her gig. And she leaves like 2 hours after that. She says, like, I'm going, and gone. Goodbye. She's on a ship with Suroth heading off. I don't think Suroth is keen to be on this trip either. She has other things to do, but Tuon has spoken, so off they go. Matt, of course, accompanies Tylen to the docks to see her off. Waits until her ship is very, very far out in case she's looking back and sees him running off and turns everything around. But she can't spot him even if she had a looking glass. So he waits until she's far, far out. He can't risk her turning around and coming back because now he has his chance to escape. It's time to make a plan. It's time to get out of Dodge. Either they escape by boat, or they convince Valen Luca to leave earlier than he wants to. I think he only wants to leave in spring, so like not anytime soon. Mm-hmm. On his way down to the docks, by the way, earlier, he sees Pyrrha. Here it is in my notes. In brackets, Reimer Gelfrey of the Yellow Asher, and sees for himself that Tesla was right. Like, she is broken. Mm. She's giggling and clapping hands because her Suldam told her something, whispered something in her ear. She's gone, man.
She's gone.
This is the last time I'll mention her. On his way back from the docks now, he's taking it slow to kind of stake out the area and see, what the movements of the Seanchan are. And also because his leg, remember a wall fell on him? Mm-hmm. I've forgotten about that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he's still Mr. Hopalong Cassidy. He sees at least 20 Suldam with their Damane patrolling the docks. So perhaps escape by boat is not going to be possible after all. This is not going to be as easy as he thought. But he has a third plan up his sleeve. He thinks of it, but we don't get to know what it is quite yet. Upon arriving at the palace, Noel appears out of nowhere. He's sneaky like that. He knows Matt is planning something and he wants in. He knows when great men are making plans, and Matt's like, great men. I'm no bloody great man. Mm-hmm. So Matt plays it down, thinking he's just like a harmless old man who likes telling fanciful tales and like, making up stories that he's been to Shara and these tattooed women who can channel there and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, whatever, dude. He also has some knives up his sleeves that he's pretty good with. Matt tells him, listen, if I plan anything, I'll let you know. And Noel tells Matt, like, okay, I see you don't trust me yet. I get it. You don't know me that well, but look, if I wanted you dead, I would have just not appeared in that alleyway that night and let the golem suck your blood. Mm-hmm. But he understands, so fine. Noel tells him that, by the way, speaking of golems, it's still around and it's killing people every night. They're finding bodies all over the place. So watch your back, Jack. And speaking of watching your back, as he turns to leave, he spots Tuon staring at him again. She just happens to be everywhere at every moment with those beady little eyes. So the sooner he leaves, the better. So he sends Lopen to fetch the rest of his clothes from Beslin's cupboard, where his normal coats are, nothing with bright red and lace. Mm-hmm. And he sends Nerim to find Julian. Julian arrives first, with a big smile on his face. Ding dong, the bitch is gone, he says, in different words. Suroth is the bitch, if that's not clear. Matt realizes then, so Julian's secret crush must be one of Suroth's Dakoval, if he's so happy that she's gone, because he's also just, He tells Julian he needs his help finding a Damane dress, 3 Suldam dresses, and an Adam. While you're at it, get me these things. Nothing major. The thief catcher is not happy that he has to become the thief, but he will do it to save his lady friend. Matt changes out of his pretty clothes, the formerly mentioned red coat with white lace, and the change sparks some chatter amongst the servants. They know he's going to try and sneak out now that Thailand is gone, and they do not approve. But Matt wants to encourage that knowledge. He doesn't want Thailand to be punished for his escape, so he's got to make it look like she had nothing to do with it, and it was all his idea after she left. Eventually, the news spreads of his imminent departure, and even the Suldam now know that he is planning to run away, but they don't give a fuck, really. Like, whatever. So, yeah, when he's out, he's making himself be seen in his normal clothes and makes it well known that he's up to something. He is running away. So as the days pass, he keeps hanging around the palace to be seen planning his escape and sees Teslin being taken for walks. She's starting to look increasingly nervous, and he's worried she might be starting to have second thoughts, so he better get going before she snaps under the stress, like our old yellow friend previously. And every day, he catches Tuon staring at him. She's always in some sort of alcove or behind a pillar, or like every time, there she is, and she immediately just walks away. Just happenstance that she's there. But he's not so worried about Tuon, though. With time passing, the risk of Thailand returning sooner rather than later is growing, so he needs to get a move on. But he's only really had, since Thailand left, to start actually making plans. Like, he has a rough plan in his mind, but the steps are still hazy. So he also gets news from Noel and Tom about the golem as these days are passing on. It's killing every night in the city, and seekers have been tasked with finding this murderer. Double shifts, whatever it takes. That means more patrols, more risk of being caught during this escape attempt. So the longer he leaves it, the worse it's getting. He decides to sleep in different places every night to avoid the golem, some haylofts as well. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I've slept in haylofts before, that's no problem, but it's harder than it used to be. He's become accustomed to the queen's bed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Quite a difference.
He's not as, as country boy as he used to be.
No.
Tom and Julian are having meetings every night to hammer out every step of this escape plan. One night, Beslan joins them. He had been eavesdropping outside and got wind of what they were going and invited himself in. So they had to include him. And he's all keen. He's like, listen, I'll create a distraction for you guys. Let's have an uprising, why don't we? Rebellion. To help them escape. So he's been planning this rebellion anyway. Mm-hmm. So why don't we just combine our two plans? Mm-hmm. And Matt's like, listen, dude, bad idea. That will bring suspicion, first of all, onto your mother. Like, the royal family will be involved now in my escape, because it's not just us escaping, we're stealing the money. Mm-hmm. It's like, they're not going to be very happy with us. And it will 100% get you killed. Part of his plan, Beslan's plan, though, is to free almost 200 Damane. His plan is, we'll just let them free. They'll be so grateful for that we've been saved that they'll fight for us. And Matt's like, nah, I seriously doubt that. Listen, I've done my research on these guys. Like, sure, some of them aren't 100% broken, but you'd have to secretly and nonchalantly interview all of them to find out where their loyalties lie. And there's no time for that. And 99% of them will immediately scream for help the second you take the collar off. Mm-hmm. So that's a bad idea. But Beslan is unmoved. He will start an uprising today, tomorrow, some point. This uprising is happening. This is his kingdom. He's going to fight for it. Fuck the Sean-Chan. End of it. So Beslan kind of stops coming to their meetings after that. He pops in every now and then their meetings basically just turn into calm Beslan down meetings. So better he doesn't actually come. They carry on their planning and stakeouts and discover that the Damane are not guarded at night when they're upstairs in the kennels. The Sildam check on them before bed and then only in the morning again. So Tom's like, well, the escape then is happening at night, so at least we have a time. Julian hasn't managed to get the dresses or the Adam yet, but he'll get them. These things are not just lying around. Sean-Chan just don't leave Adam lying around. Tom finds out that you can't just stroll through the main gates with Damane either. Not even the Sultan can just leave with Damane. They need a signed order by one of the blood, an officer ranked captain or above. Do we know any Sean-Chan officers ranked captain or above?
Mm-hmm.
And where are they going to find one of these, they start thinking. They also need 3 actors to play their Suldam, because they're taking out 3 Aes Sedai that have to be Damane. They got all these people. Okay, so if they get the dresses and the Adam, they can dress up the Aes Sedai, but they're going to need to be leashed to be able to just walk outside. So Matt suggests Rizal. I wonder why, Matt. Out of all the women you could have chosen. But she and her amazing bosom are not going to be available for this because they are getting married to old, what's his face? There. Battle General Lord Yamada. Him. They just hit it off straight away. And also, he's very rich, so she's going to be moving to an estate. Not that that had anything to do with her decision. They consider Julian's squeeze, but she's a nervous wreck as it is. He has to convince her, basically, every time he meets her, reconvince her for this escape plan. So that's a no-go. Getting her to dress up and play a part is not going to help anyone. So 7 days have now passed in the story, and they are nowhere near ready to leave. And that night, they learn of another golem attack. So now they're starting to hear from the whole city, even the common folk. Everybody knows about these murders. The whole city is on edge, and everyone, the citizens, are calling on the Sean-Chan to do something about it. So there's even more patrols, making their lives even harder and harder. Things are not looking great. But by lunchtime, Matt finally gets some good news as Julian brings him 2 Suldam dresses and an Adam in a cloth sack. Throws it at his sphere. There it is. Take that. And that's how the chapter ends.
Nice.
Drops the Dijon on the table.
There's the Dijon for you.
Right, Willem, what did you get out of this chapter?
Jody summarized it pretty well. That is what happened. I concur.
Yes. Thank you. Thank God he concurred.
No, I don't think I've got anything additional there. I mean, it's all pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
It's
These chapters
Matt's
mostly
working
are.
on a plan and then another plan.
Yeah.
The small setup.
Yes. But this time, like, actual setup, like the structure of the chapter as well as like summary, right? Like days play out in a single chapter here, and it's all this like all these things happen, and it's very, very high level. It's just like a very big summary of their preparation activities. But it gives you a good feeling of like exactly the challenges that they have to face. And I like how systematic they are and how methodical. Like, okay, cool. So we know that the Damane aren't guarded at night. That means we have to do it at night. And then this is how we're going to have to do it. And they sort of piece it together quite coolly. I really enjoyed that.
Everyone's doing their recon at the moment. Like Julian's pretending to sweep the kennels at a stage,
Yes.
pick up all the bits. It's like everyone's and as you say, like special agent music in the background. Or
Dun, 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 dun. I mean, obviously, I have some points, and you guys have made me quite self-conscious about the length of my summaries now, so I want to rattle this off as quickly as I can. Jody, I agree. I think it's Tuan's idea for Thailand to go see the new lands so that she can have Matt to herself, or like, have easier access to him. I wonder what Matt's notion about making Luca leave before spring could be. He thinks it's dangerous, but he'll do it if he has no choice. Spoiler alert, we don't find out in Winter's Heart. We don't find out in this book. We don't see an interaction with Luca in this book. So
I was thinking, like, you have a chest of gold under the floor in the kitchens there. Just give that to Luca. He is a gold maniac. You give him all of that and say, let's go now. He'll be like, let's go.
It's
Back
true.
up, everyone.
it's true.
There's an easier way to do this, Matt.
I was a little bit surprised when they, like, their whole procession down to the docks and stuff, that there are 6 Suldam and they only have 2 Damane with them. Like, do they have very few Damane in Ebou Dar? No, 200, right? Like, that's what Beslin was saying.
Yeah.
No, I don't know. What's the point of having additional
there's more
Suldam?
outside in the camps.
But they're in the kennels, in the palace, 200 upstairs.
Yeah, so there are loads of them around. I don't know. I just thought it was weirdly incongruous. Like 6 Suldam and 2 Damane.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the point?
Well, I mean, I suppose they take all of their Damane when they're going into battle, but when they're walking down to the docks, it's just like, whatever. 2 is like an honor guard or
But
something.
then again, like, leave 4 of the Suldam who don't have anything to do leave them at home as well. Yeah. That's just my obsessive compulsive
training.
disorder.
Who understands
Or-
these Sean Chan weirdos?
You don't do patrol with a tank and with a howitzer cannon. You just
No, but what these guys are
take
doing is
with
they're
some light artillery.
They're doing the patrol with the parts of a cannon. They've got 6 soldats, but only 2 Damane.
Mm.
So they're doing the patrol with 6 tanks, but only 2
Maybe
of them
it's
are
like
loaded.
if one gets shot with an arrow, they've got a backup. What
Who
war
knows?
was it where there wasn't enough guns? You just run and pick up a gun from the guy that's dead in front of you,
The
and
Russians.
then run, storm the beach. St. Petersburg, what was that?
Was that Enemy at the Gates where only every second person gets a gun, and like if someone dies with a gun in their hands, the next person has to pick up their gun. Okay. When Matt thinks about the captured sea folk working as Duck Oval, cleaning up the canals in the Rahad, I mean, that's got to be a pretty gross job, right? Like the Rahad is pretty stinky. He has to convince himself that he doesn't owe them anything and that there's nothing he can do for them. And that's that, like he's sort of like, can't do anything for them. Clearly feeling like he should be helping them somehow. This is Matt's most endearing trait, right? Like he always feels like he should be helping no matter how much he thinks he doesn't want to. And we see this play out later in the kennels as well.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a thought here. I don't know if it's in this chapter or one of Willie's chapters.
Mm-hmm.
just a thought. I'm saying getting this
Dipping your
this
toe
treatment.
into like bad
Dangerous
water
waters. And his thought is like, yeah, I'll get this kind of treatment even after I've done something out of the goodness of my heart. Well, maybe not goodness of my heart. You know what I mean. Yeah, Matt, I know what you mean.
Did you guys also spot the racist slur in this chapter?
Oh, gollywog.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's highlighted in my Kindle now because I was like, does Jordan think gollywog has a different meaning?
Well, to Matt,
Because he
does.
uses it in a way of
Yeah, it means to like give him the chills or to like creep him out or something. But I mean, it's it's a very known and specific word with a known racist connotation for some time. I checked this book was published for the first time in the year 2000, right? Like by that time, the word gollywog was well and truly pushed out of the lexicon.
Well, I don't know what it means. Like,
yeah, I can go Google it. It's just like it comes from old literature, and it was a specific character based on the look of the old minstrels, which were white people that painted blackface with exaggerated features and sort of like portrayed black people in a very negative light. And the Gollywog character was based on that face paint. It was actually quite popular, that toy, in the UK and South Africa and Australia, apparently.
We had one in our house.
Yeah.
We had a gollywog doll.
Yeah, I remember.
My mother had a doll collection from when she was younger, and one of them was a gollywog.
Yeah. Anyway, odd one.
Okay, let's stop saying gollywog.
Let's.
Moving on.
Yes. No offense intended, obviously.
This is a history lesson. It's educational.
Exactly. I thought it was pretty smart of Matt to not sleep in the same bed 2 nights in a row. I don't know how he got any sleep at all. I mean, that golem is mobile and can get in anywhere. So, yikes.
Yeah.
Beslin's need for an uprising as a distraction is what they used as a distraction in Tanchico as well. If you recall where Bail Domin was last time, when they caused a big, Tom and Julian incited a riot in Tanchico, and this big uprising was exactly what they used as cover then as well. So it's the go-to
just a little
cover.
Bit too much riot.
Yes. Yeah.
That seems to be their
It's like,
go-to. Wasn't that in Camelin as well, where they set the granaries on fire? And then a bunch of people escaped then as well?
Isn't that Millie Skane and her dark friends actually burning the granaries, not as a distraction, but as an actual act of sabotage?
Chaos.
Well, it was pretty distracting. It's like, well, that it's Robert Jordan's go-to.
It must be.
Someone's going to riot something. And then
Someone's
other
got to
people are
riot.
gonna escape
Florin
chaos.
Galb needs to set something on fire. Do you remember who that is? The guy that Rand jumped on Domon's ship outside Shadow Logoth. The guy that actually started a riot in Whitebridge, or like burned something down, set a ship on fire or something in Whitebridge. In Kyrian, the granaries, when King Galdrian was killed, it was another riot. Yeah. RJ's go-to.
Explosion.
Loves a bit of an uprising.
Burn shit.
For Rizal to quote unquote to discover that Damane can't just be walked out of the gate, she would have been asking some pretty pointed questions of the officer with the singing voice that she admired, the Wandering Woman, Yamada, whatever you said his name was, Joe, that she's going to marry. So Tom's really got her like working for him. Like this is not like him just scraping information. Like he would have had to have Rizal find out specifically that thing from that high-ranking Sean-chan officer. So like Rizal is also, she's playing a pretty dangerous game, which is, just a testament to Tom's powers of persuasion. And then sticking with Tom, he recognizes Noel's skills. He goes, wow, when he hears something, he can see what is truth and what is rumor, and he knows how to like interpret message and stuff. I wonder if he's really been to Shara. And then he sort of trails off. But that's a credit that Matt should be taking note of, right? Like if Tom goes, this Noel guy is pretty sharp, Matt should go, okay, maybe he should be sticking around us. And then I just had 2 more points. One is like, yes, the Golem's murder is really making it hard for Matt. With the madman on the streets, people are demanding even more Sean-chan patrols. Like, oh god, great. The difficulty level of this game just got a bit higher. And my last note was just Julian, you beauty, with his cloth sack of Suldam dresses and Adam.
If anyone can get it, it's Julian.
Oh, yes. Okay, that's enough blathering from me. We can then move along to chapter 29 called Another Plan. Vil, what is Matt planning?
Well, Matt is planning an escape, or attempting to plan an escape. But right now he is finding himself in the basement of the Wandering Woman, where they now need to do a bit of discussing their plan. Jolene and Matt is, facing off around this idea that a collar needs to be put around her neck. The warders basically, like, she says she's not going to wear it. She's not going to wear it. Standing, basically, with what the equivalent would be with knives in their hands through their body gesture.
Isn't this isn't this like the start of like a long-standing sort of like friction between Matt and specifically Jolene's warders? Like during the Val and Luca thing, don't they also pretend to be a couple? Or like Matt spanks her at one point. Like there's a lot of weirdness, and like the warders and their reaction to Matt, I think is like a recurring joke. Like this dynamic between them, with them sort of like looming over Matt the whole time and trying to get their hands on it.
There's, for me as well, that section of the chapter there's a lot of detail that's being spent and time that's being spent on those warders. So I'm like, okay, this is not just someone having his breakfast on a toe rockin' or whatever. some getting dude that's getting splat. There's going to be something built up.
Pay attention to
and know about these people. But yes, Satel Anand decides to let loose on Jolene like a mistress of novices, and it's in this scalding moment where I think where Jolene's like, have we met? Like, because there's the accent there with Pippin and that. But Matt just wants to get it done with. Like, he just wants to know that it works, that they can move on with it. Because he needs to get out of here. And then he also tells Satel, no, look, I don't know what you're going to do if we go, but it might not go well for you. And she's like, no, she's already, family's gone. The inn is already sold. Like, the person wants to hand over keys, like, and take over, but I can't quite do it with an Aes Sedai in the basement. So,
comes with free Aes Sedai.
You've got it also, it's in with the free Aes Sedai.
The estate agent never mentioned that.
Yeah. By the way, we still have to move that. Just ignore that for the moment. Down there. Because this is prompted when Jolene takes aim at Satel Anand for letting her husband and all her kin sail his 10 boats. They're going to coast hop his fishing boats until they get to Tia, Ilian, can't remember, one of the two. They're not quite in the mood to go to Tavalon. So, Ilian. And Jolene's like, you would trust him to sail your youngsters in what's it, Savaro's crazy storms,
Camaros.
or whatever.
The Camaros, yes.
Camaros. And the comparison again, like, look green. I trust them like I trust you trust your warders. So it was quite interesting there. But any which way, Matt just wants it to be the end of having to deal with Aes Sedai's. It's a very like, he
Bad
just
news, Matt.
really doesn't. Sorry, mate.
It's only book 9, Matt. Still a lot.
Yeah, he really there's an emphasis around that, like, but unluckily for him, well, they moved then to test set collar. I'm just gonna go over that real quick. It doesn't go well. There's a lot of spasm. There's a lot of breakbone fever happening on the floor. And it's just a disaster. It starts off with a mouth twitch for Jolene, and then later a lot of weird twitches and moans and all the rest. So Matt realizes the plan's fucked. She's not even up and awake yet, and he's like, "Tell her I'll think of something else." So he then moves and needs to do some thinking. So he's back at his planning board, and Matt lies. Actually, have you guys picked up how much Matt is lying to Aes Sedai in these chapters?
He's
pulling
using their tricks
on them.
on them.
It's fantastic.
It's amazing.
It's like I always have another plan. No, there is no other plan. Talking shit. But it weighs heavy on Matt's shoulder. The fact that him just saying he'll see if he can help is almost like he's gonna help. It's not just this is convenient for me to do something. I will now do it. It's a deep set dedication to the safety of this woman. And again, I think it just runs through the Two River Boys thing again, with that deep needing to help damsels in distress. Matt, on his way out from the inn, then is stopped by a heavy-set man with a beard, and he then opens his mouth. Money. I mean, we know each other. And this introduction of Bail Doman are back, and he reminds Matt of where they know each other from. Very unpleasant memories for Matt. Like that of being sick. Yes, Matt, you were very sick at that point in time. But Matt thinks the only way to avoid this now is probably going to be to knock him out, and that's not going to end well. So too much attention drawing. So you might as well go, and he's got a fat purse of gold. So if you can get him drunk, you might be able to get some information out of him. But he's taken into a back room, and he is presented to Aegean, and again Egiani, that one, the captain with the boat and that. And Matt realizes, like, okay, this is not someone who wants kisses from him. She's the business. She's got the sword calluses on the hands, but she's straight to the point of what she needs. She needs men for sailing a ship, and they need to be trustworthy men. And she also needs Tom and Julian, if you happen to know them, and they're around. Matt starts, he sits down firstly, which is quite rude in terms of how you deal with the blood, and quite openly starts questioning her, which is now not very accepted. And Bale is like, woo, tries to correct him, but that doesn't go well. She tells Matt, like, no, this is you're asking too much, like, I don't need you, and sort of like dismisses him, but is prompted by Bale, like, no, this is the person that you need to speak to. And then it lays it all out, like she's also trying to run away. So Matt puts one and one together, and he sees his opportunity to get out. But ships need money, and money only comes in spring. And that is, again, not good enough. But through Matt's own little groundwork he's done, he's realized that, okay, the Seekers, he's going to throw a wild gamble or a guess at this. And he just puts it out there to her like, oh, the Seekers are after you. It completely calls her out. And he's like, okay, he can use this because then he can set the timing for it. And like, you can't, you should be out of the city like tomorrow night, 12 o'clock, perhaps. Can you get 3 Sildam? And a friendship is forged. And the plan starts evolving. Now we move into the next scene, almost as if Matt is now with Tom and Julian, and they're discussing this meeting. Tom basically reiterating that yes, she is pretty trustworthy and bailed Dom, and there's been a lot of interaction with him, and he's go with it. Julian is like he's a smuggler, but that's Julian. Is anything thieving or thievery related? He is not very fond of.
No.
It seems.
He says Doman is pretty trustworthy for a smuggler.
Or a smuggler. He is also, he's a little bit nose out of joint because the dresses he stole is now not being used. It's like, no, I stole that now. You made me a thief. You better damn well need them. Maybe Julian does the right thing and go put them back and doesn't get caught with dresses in his possession. So the plan of escape remains pretty much the same. Still to walk these Aes Sedai out collared with, and I wonder where Eggy's going to get Sildam that need to do something for her. The plot thickens, doesn't it?
Some Sildam with a secret that they don't want to come out.
Yes, some. There are some, apparently. Tom does question like how she got raised to the blood so quickly from when he last saw her. It is something that puzzles him, but that just adds into the mystery of this whole plan, I suppose, coming together. Every time Matt thinks about Rand or Perrin, but in this instance, in this chapter, it's more about Rand. The colors like is now getting crazy for him. Matt gets a lesson from Tom during all of this around the importance and the power of propaganda and storytelling, because the guy that believes it. And that can upset a lot of things. So, because Matt took a little dig at the stories in your chapter, Jody, I think it is with Beslin, where he said, it's only in Gleeman's Tales where pitchforks and farmers and bakers overthrow a whole army. So this is Tom giving him a stab back at like, no, Lehman stories can be very powerful. Like people believe stuff. The other thing that then comes out was that why Nynaeve, Elaine, Tom, and they all were together. Like, how does this all tie? And no one's allowed to Julian says, sorry, he can't say, but Tom then tells Matt, says, look, it wasn't an oath. And basically just the story about the Dominion bands that they had to go and chuck into the ocean. And Matt wants to know whether Rand knows about this. Like, does he even know that this thing exists? Because it's, a powerful weapon and potentially something that we should be very cautious of. Like, he should know about
aware of and factoring in, yes.
Yes. I don't know if anyone told him.
No, because it's only Nynaeve and Elaine that knew about it, right? And then gave it to Domon and Igian to drop in the sea.
Yeah, but Elaine married, or not married. I mean, she had a fool lying next to Rand in honeymoon beds.
If she said anything, it wasn't.
Oh, by the way,
stated in the book. Like, wasn't told to
Yeah, but
us.
to them, to Nynaeve and to Elaine and all of them, they believe that
It's done.
at the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah. When it's in the hands
they think it's out of
What's the
the
point
way.
of bringing it up?
of a dark friend, Sean Chan High Blood.
I think it's in the hands of the Forsaken already.
Yeah, Quite.
Really gave it to Semirog.
Probably. Well, she's not taking
Enough.
orders from Cimarog yet. That only happens after Tion is kidnapped. So I think Suroth might actually still have it.
Mm.
But that is, I think, how Cimarog gets her hands on it. Or she steals it from Cadswain or something. Something happens.
Something does happen. That I'm sure of.
I don't know. Elaine is a bright cookie, and she can understand the Rungriel, but why doesn't she think like if there's men that can channel, someone can maybe make more of these?
Again, she thinks it's in the bottom of the ocean.
That's the thing. If there's one,
Fair enough. I'll let it go for now.
I mean,
but I'll be back.
the leap of logic that you are making, anyone can make. It doesn't need Elaine or knowledge of the Dominion bands to think that if men can channel and there's an Adam for females, then theoretically an Adam should be able to be created for men as well. The only thing that Elaine and Nynaeve and then again and Dermon and Tom and Julian, what they have over everyone else is that they've actually seen one. But as far as the ladies are concerned, that thing is taken care of and it's gone. It's the bottom of the ocean. No one's ever going to see it again.
Well, after that, Julian decides he wants rest and basically kick Matt out because tomorrow night's probably going to be no rest at all. Matt decides it's a good night to have a good sleep in Tylen's bed for one last time. Not because he's going to miss her, but because it's comfy bed. But he can't sleep because he's got golem fever dreams about, and he sleeps with that medallion in his hand, and he's thinking of his plan. First light, what was going to go wrong? The end of that chapter.
Yeah. Joe, any notes?
A lot goes wrong.
Yeah, a lot does.
No, I think this was the chapter where Matt thinks that because the Aes Sedai and what's her name? Wandering Woman?
Satel Anan?
Satel Anan, yeah, are giving him all that shit, and he's saying, after I've agreed to help them out of the goodness of my heart. And also I wanted to ask about the writhing on the floor, like the mechanics behind that, just to clarify, when they put that on Teslan's neck, and Mistress Anan has the bracelet on her. Is it no? Who's holding the bracelet?
Jolene is
Jolene's
the Aes Sedai,
sorry.
yes. Tesla is in the kennels.
Yeah. Okay, so whatever. They'll get blended together for me, these three. Edicina, except not. I haven't met her yet. But, yeah, so Mistress Anan has the bracelet on her wrist, and it causes much consternation to our Aes Sedai friend. Is that because she
can't channel?
Not, but she's burnt out. Is that, like, I'm just wondering if anybody puts it on, it does that.
Oh, you mean just because she's burnt out, maybe she...
Yeah. Has it got something to do with her specifically? Because I don't remember, like, what the exact mechanics are. Like, if a man can't put on the bracelet, that would also cause problems. Like, anyone who's doesn't have the ability to channel puts on that bracelet, it's going to cause pain to the...
I think so. I think that's what makes the Suldam special and why they need to test for Suldam. They can't just train Suldam. They need to test for Suldam. So it has, for the bracelet to work as designed, it has to be a woman who could be taught how to channel. And if... I don't know if the difference between just a plain Jane normie like us who can't channel and Satel Anan would be the same. I don't know if Satel Anan's burnt out status makes it different, but my assumption and their assumption in the story is that it's like, oh, we can't just use any normal person. What you're alluding to is like maybe they just made a mistake. If they put it on a different woman, like a Rizal or someone, maybe that would not have been there. Yeah. I don't know. Callback, I guess.
I think
like maybe put her on Rizal, it wouldn't cause pain.
It wouldn't work,
she wouldn't be able to channel,
wouldn't cause pain. But maybe the pain comes from the fact that Satel was burnt out. I wonder.
No, I'm gonna say it's a built-in like security mechanism.
I think so too.
That no one can just grab a dom and
wear it.
Like it's just wear it.
Yeah. What else, Joe?
That's it. What you got, Mo?
I've got, I think, 3 notes for the whole chapter. One of them is, of course, Satel would not abide by the Sean Chan way. She says that 2 days after they arrived, she was like, okay, I'm selling this thing. I mean, she used to be a channeler. She can't abide by collaring channelers, right? Like that's why she's helping Jolene. It's she's actually featured in the story a lot more than I remember. Like for books now, she's been like a pretty prominent character, which is great. The Aes Sedai twisting words that Matt uses, Vil, is he says to Jolene, "I won't leave an Aes Sedai in the kennels unless she wants to stay." And that sort of appeases Jolene, but he knows there are some Aes Sedai, some of the broken ones like Reimer and those ones that would stay if you had to ask them.
It's like, no way.
But don't tell her about it, because she'll insist on saving them, regardless.
Yes.
And fuck everything up.
Matt even thinks to himself, Aes Sedai twisted their words with other people. They did not expect others to use their tricks on them. So he's very conscious of exactly what he's doing, which is great. The rest of the stuff you guys covered. So we can move
Your turn.
along. It is. You kind of stepped on my segue, Joe, but let's...
Oh, shit. Edit it out. Start again.
Let's go for it anyway. So that brings us to chapter 30 called Cold, Fat Raindrops. Speaking of cold and fat and being a bit of a drip, let's have another recap from yours truly.
I'm sorry I stepped on it. That was very good, Moritz. Well done.
Okay, so the next day is cloudy and windy with all the pieces of the plan accounted for. Matt, Olver, Lopen, and Nerem finish gathering Matt and Olver's belongings. I just thought to myself, way to jinx yourself, Matt, because he thinks now that he had one of the Seanchan blood to use, nothing could go wrong. And I also enjoyed how Matt extends Nerem's skill at sewing up his wounds to being able to work with lace. You know, it's like maybe Nerem can do something with the lace on these shirts. You know, he's pretty good with a needle. He sewed him up a bunch of times. Potato, same thing to him. Skin, lace, same thing. The plan is set, and Matt makes Lopen repeat it to him, much to Lopen's apparent annoyance. Lopen and Nerem are to take Olver out by the refuse gate at the rear of the Tarrison Palace, where there usually isn't anyone but the guards until after the cart has left. And the guards are used to seeing them move through there, taking Matt's stuff to the Wandering Woman. They will then go to Satalanan's inn to get Matt's gold and the rest of Matt's clothes. Metwin, Fergan, and Gordarin will meet them with horses and will take Olver through the Dal Ira gate at mid-afternoon to an abandoned stable to wait for Matt and the others. So these three Red Arms, I remember their names, and I just quickly did a bit of reading. There's not a lot of text on them. The Metwin is a slender Carinian who is apparently the best swordsman in the Red Arms. Fergan is also skinny but not very bright. And Gordarin is noted as being the second best swordsman among the Red Arms. Despite his bulk, he is quite fast. Matt also has a thought here that he knows he's fated to die and live again, but he's pretty sure that's already happened. Yeah, Matt, one could argue it's happened twice.
And we have.
Yes. Anyway, if Matt is not at the abandoned stable by sunrise, they are to leave and find Talmanes and the band. Nerem and Lopen agree. But Matt suspects that Nerem and Lopen are lying about following his orders to keep moving if he doesn't catch up to them. He's probably right, and I just love how loyal Matt's men are, so Noel was spot on. Olver, you little scamp. Why exactly would Rozelle's husband not approve of her continuing your reading lessons? You must know there is some other payoff happening there. Olver is 10, right? Like, why would the husband not want her to give a 10-year-old reading lesson? So Olver is conscious of the fact that there's something else going on here. And I mean...
Something inappropriate.
Yes.
Grossly so.
Yes. He says to Matt, "I'm not a child, Matt." And then immediately after that is like on about Snakes and Foxes. "You will play Snakes and Foxes with me, won't you? You promise. You're never available anymore." But I remember, or I don't remember, that the book says outright that the game of Snakes and Foxes is the one that his dad made. So I wonder if that forms part of his almost like compulsive playing of the game. Beslin spots Tom slipping into the stables to distract Jolene until Aegean arrives and goes straight to Matt, knowing that something is up. The cat is out of the bag, and Matt tells Beslin that the escape will be tonight. Beslin and his friends are to set fire to some of the Seanchan stores to provide a distraction, though Beslin wishes that he could do something more quote-unquote magnificent. There's some real precision involved in the plan, as Beslin needs to make sure the fires are started as near enough to midnight as possible. Matt should be out and moving north while the fires draw the Seanchan attention south at that time. Matt also makes sure that Beslin understands that he must be seen in public at the time the fires are set, so there can be no obvious link between Beslin and, by extension, Tylan, and the fires and or the escape with the free Damane. So he's trying to cover all his bases here, which is pretty smart. The servants notice horses being moved out of the stables and guess that Matt will be leaving that night, though he tries to act and convince them otherwise. Even Vannon and Harnan are still camped in the long barracks which the Red Arms have been occupying. But it's so obvious that Matt is leaving. The servants are busy paying out the bets that they've made about whether he's going to leave or not. Like he sees a bunch, like I think twice he sees servants handing over money and like glaring at him. And Matt also at one point goes and he rides Pips in circles in the stable yard slowly, presumably because of his leg, or does he just want to exercise the horse before going on a long journey? Like, what is he doing? Just killing time, riding a horse around in circles? All of the above?
Yes.
Oh, it's his getaway car, so he's just revving it up, checking that it's going to handle
He's just
the
checking it,
RPMs.
kicking the tires, checking the pressure, checking the oil.
Yeah, that's it.
So the Damane and Suldam near where Matt is riding Pip seem to know he's leaving too. Matt describes it to women being terrible gossips regardless of nationality, rank or status. Suldam don't bother him much, but he's worried about Teslin, whom he spots and who looks really on edge. She's about to break, if not broken already. The sound of the Damane laughing at one point chills Matt's blood, and I thought, yeah, same. Like it's sort of like sickly tittering is what I imagine, like a complete crazy person. And I had to laugh at Vannon, who doesn't have any time for Matt's worries. You just take care of your piece, let Hanan and I worry about ourselves. He's like so dismissive of Matt. And then he goes and he's like super nice to Pips, like, here you go, I've got some extra oats for you. And he's like super nice to the horse and just really shit to Matt, which is awesome. Matt heads back to Thailand's apartments to wait. He looks at his Ashandari and bow and thinks he'll have to come back for the black sword spear at the very last moment. Walking around with it would be too conspicuous. Just on the bow here, he thinks to himself an unstrung bow should be 2 hands taller than the man who would draw it. A hand is like 101.6 millimeters or 4 inches, like 10 centimeters. So like, and Matt is fairly tall, so it needs to be like 2 hands taller than him, so 20 centimeters taller than what he is before it's strung. That's a huge, huge bow.
That's a long stick.
Mm-hmm. Sure is. As the night passes, his head is going at 100 miles an hour. He's sitting in the dark and nobody expects him to be in the rooms because he had slept there the night before. So now he's sort of like flipping the script on his previous tactic. Always sleep in different rooms, and now the night where he's going to do something, he sleeps in the same room because he's set the expectation that he won't be there. And all the lights are off, obviously, so it doesn't look like there's anyone there. He opens a window at one point and he can see the city is shrouded in cloudy darkness with wind and rain keeping most people inside, which is great for him. As he listens to the clock that he can't see in the dark, he plays out in his head what will be happening. So first, Agienan will soon be introducing Jolene to her Suldam. Tom, Jolene, and the others from the inn will meet Matt just before he reaches the Del Iro gate. Julian will be making his way to Thera, and Beslin will be starting to drink hard at an inn somewhere. Then Matt uses a phrase that I've never heard before, and he goes, Tom had gone ahead with carving his turnip.
To make the seals.
Any man with a bit of skill, a knife and a turnip can make a seal. It's the handwriting that is the thing that really is the art of forging a letter.
Thank goodness, because I googled that as like, is that an expression? Is that an idiom? What the fuck is he talking about?
Google was like, I fucking don't know either, man.
Turnips. I
No,
keep
mate,
putting
you
links to like
lost.
people making jack-o'-lanterns and stuff out of turnips. Finally, Matt gets up, he takes a deep breath and he makes his way through the dimly lit hallways. Too late now for anything but beginning. He makes it out to the columned walkway that borders the stable yard and curses the rain. Now it really feels like shit is afoot, right? Like Matt is in the dark, he's moving around now, and it's raining, it's dark on this colonnade. He steps out onto the columned walk that borders the stable yard, and it has started to rain. It's dark everywhere, the wall lamps are all blown out except for those flanking the stable gates. There's no sign of Agienan at first, but she and her party eventually arrive through the stable gates. But he can tell that there are too many people, and he starts getting worried. The first words Agienan says to him are, "Your man Vannon is rude." I'm like, yeah. You've met Vannon. Cool.
Surprise. You've met
to
Vannon.
everyone, yes. She tells him that she's made some changes to the plan. Matt didn't tell her that Jolene would have 2 men, her warders with her, or that Satal would be accompanying them. So Matt gets all indignant about her changing anything about the plan, which is ironic because of words we'll hear him utter later. She has disguised Fenn and Blerick as lantern bearers and the others as her entourage, which she would have needed anyway to look right for any kind of street patrols. She introduces Matt to Seta and Reno, the two Sildam, and from Seta's flinching at hearing her name, Matt figures out which is which. And Matt announces, well, we better get on with it. And the chapter ends with Matt thinking to himself that he has also decided to risk a change or two to the plan, which is just, makes that like reaction to again and changes that much funnier. There's a couple times in these chapters where he's like, he's thinking about making some changes now. Yes, he's going to make some changes to the plan. He's already planning on flipping the script on everyone else. But yeah, that's the end of the chapter.
Yep. That was a nice short little chapter.
I think it was like
18 minutes.
Yeah, it was like 7 pages.
In Kindle time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, more setup.
Now, this is like pulling the hammer back on a revolver, right? Like this is you're about to pull the trigger and do the big thing. And man, do things explode, to continue my analogy, in the next chapter, which is chapter 31. Actually, did you guys have anything else you wanted to say about that chapter? I just barreled ahead.
No barrel.
Okay.
Continue with the barrel.
Barrel on.
Okay, barreling commencing.
Be like
now.
Kong on top of that mountain thing.
The girders.
Set barrels.
Chapter 31 is called What the Aelfin Said. Just what did the Aelfin say, Jody?
Man, those sons of bitches say all kinds of things. But specifically, to Matt, they said some stuff. So, I've written here, it's time, but I want you to hear that in your brain as Bruce Buffer.
I knew you were going to say that. It's time.
Yes. They're off to the kennels with Seta and Rena and all those people you just mentioned that are way more than we had originally planned. Matt is going with them, although part of the plan was that he go and fetch his stuff while they do this. But he's decided he's going to change that plan, and here is the change. This change, however, will come back to haunt him. But we later learn that he's putting his third plan that we heard of earlier into action. Matt peels off once they're up in the kennels and heads to one specific kennel where there is a wind finder. It's pitch black darkness, as we've already heard, so he's feeling his way around the small room until he reaches the bed and clamps his hand over Nestel Din Sakuro Southstar's mouth. And he asks her, "Yo, what would you do if I took this collar off?" And basically she replies, "I'd cause a fucking ruckus. She'd free your sisters, she'd fight through the city, they'd get to their ships, and they'd teach these Sean Chan a lesson." And he's like, correct answer. I like that. Sweet. That's just what I wanted to hear. But just wait 3 hours, please. He takes off her collar, and then he shows her how to do it so that she can go free the rest of her sisters. And he's like, yeah, remember, 3 hours now. Like, not now. Just hang tight, and then you can go. He slips out of the room. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff that gets said over here, but I'm going to slip right over there. So he slips out of the room, right into the back of a Der Suldam that is guarding the kennels. She's there for some reason. But he doesn't bump into her, but as he comes out of the door and turns around, her back is right in front of his face. She's busy talking to Egianen, and they already have Teslan collared and all this. It's going down. Egianen's got it. It's all cool, Just don't let her know that you are here. So he's like kind of slinking away backwards down the stairs, trying not to let the floorboards squeak and all that stuff. Egian is just having a conversation with this Der Suldam, because she's taking Teslan, and the Der Suldam is telling her, listen, this Tessie, she's not ready for action just quite yet. She's like, doesn't matter, I'm taking her, that's the end of it. So once in the hallway downstairs, Matt starts running. Maybe that's why I was on the horse. He knew he'd have to run later, so he was warming himself up. Doesn't really help because he bumps into a table. He grabs onto a tapestry to steady himself, tears it in half as he falls, knocks over and breaks a vase, and just keeps running. It's like stealth, dude. Don't you understand what stealth is? So he heads to Tylen's apartments to go get the rest of his stuff. The stuff he should have been doing 10 minutes ago. As he enters, he sees Tylen is back. She's busy taking off her dress, which is very difficult with her lacquered fingernails now. And he's like, feck, she's back early. They have a little conversation. Turns out Suroth heard of Egwene's army in Marandi just disappearing into thin air, so cut their trip short and came back to investigate. Suroth is actually right now in this moment in the Wandering Woman across the Mulhara Square, rousing the commanders. So even more Sean Chan are awake now during this escape attempt. Tylan walks over to him, grabs him by fistfuls of his hair and gives him one of those toe-curling kisses, and then an ear-ringing slap. She's already heard about his escape plan. She's only been back 5 minutes. First thing I imagine that they told her, the servants, hey, welcome back, guess what? This is the second person to get a full-armed slap. First it was Rand, now it's all Matt. Wonder when it's Perrin's turn. We'll keep an eye out for that. He tells her that he's leaving tonight, and he is taking some Aes Sedai with him from upstairs. And she should come with him. Not the plan, Matt. This is not another change, dude. Luckily, she has no desire to go anyway. She has grander plans for her life, other than being Matt's pretty. She's not going to just reverse that relationship. But she's happy to help him escape with the Aes Sedai. She doesn't like the idea of leashing women as well. But she's going to stay. She's got a kingdom to run. She's got plans to make. So she helps him come up with a plan that doesn't incriminate her. He'll have to tie her up and stuff her under the bed. The old fateful tying up and stuffing under the bed has occurred. He tells her he'll miss her, and he leaves her there under the bed, where he will never see her again. Mm-hmm. He heads down to the stables, where the others should already be waiting for him, since she's been faffing about in Tylan's apartments. They are not there. Again, plans not going to plan. But guess who is there? Behind a little alcove. It's Tuon, everybody. She pops out of nowhere. She can't allow him to leave, so she's like, haha, I was also privy to all the rumors going around that you were sneaking out tonight. I can't allow that. You're going to have to stay here. So he reaches out to grab her to keep her quiet. But she's a fucking kung fu master and delivers Matt the beating of his life. There's a and there are 3 pages of very detailed fight choreography for anyone to go and read. Thank God Noel arrives and grabs her from behind. He seems to have no trouble holding on to her. Even asks Matt, you have this sort of trouble with women all the time? And he's like, yep, pretty much. That's my experience. Noel also has plans to leave tonight. He didn't know the minutiae of the plan, but he knew that Ebou Dar would be a bad place to be after Matt's escapades tonight, so he's also getting out early. Good idea. Julian arrives then later. Everyone's coming in drips and drabs. He has his lady friend with her, still unidentified to the readers, although she is described as having dark hair and a rosebud mouth. Mm-hmm. She's also dressed as a Dakoval. And then recognizes Tuon, obviously, immediately, and falls to the ground and doubles over in prostratedness. She freaks out. Matt's plan is not to kill Tuon, but to leave her tied up like Tylan, but in a hayloft there by the stables, where they'll find her tomorrow when they start digging out the hay for the horses. She'll be fine, no worries. Next, a couple of minutes later, Egyanan arrives. She's got Edicina there, who Matt meets for the first time, this woman that he agreed to rescue 2 days ago? I can't remember how many days now. And starts explaining why they are late. She had to appease that Dursuldam and, blah, 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 until she sees who Noel has restrained in his arms. She also falls to her knees, but she turns not to bow down, but just because shock has entered her brain. And she tells Matt, listen, dude, it's death to lay hands upon the daughter of the 9 moons. Dum dum da. Mm-hmm. There you have it. The Elfin's words run through Matt's head again. Number 1, he will die and live again. He will give up half of the light of the world to save the world, and he will marry the daughter of the 9 moons. So Matt is like, there we go. No dice needed. Without thinking, Matt says, she's my wife. He's stunned. And Egyanan is freaked. If she was freaked out before, now she's losing her mind. She's like, you can't say that. You must not say those words. So, as we all know, when you tell a man not to do something, we double down and we say it more. And he says again, she is my wife. The daughter of the 9 moons is my wife. So that's 3 times. Mm-hmm. Suddenly, Beetlejuice is also there. And all the Sean Chan are gaping at him. There's just stunned silence as Sir Lucia decides to join the party too. This plan is not going to plan at all. She also tells Matt that he is a mad/dead man and, quote, whatever the omens, this can still be rectified. Just everyone chill, let her go. So she's aware of the omens. She knows what 2-1 was been up to this whole time. Matt tells Sir Lucia to take it easy. No one is going to get hurt. Everyone just keep calm. Sir Lucia replies that she will obey, but if he hurts 2-1, she'll kill him. And he's not so convinced that she could hurt a fly. And I'm thinking, moron, 2-1 just handed you your ass with karate chops. Like, have you learnt nothing about judging books by covers? The answer is no. Noel asks if they are going to leave both 2-1 and Sir Lucia in the hayloft now. Like, now what are we going to do with these two? But they can't do that. Matt tells him that they are now taking both of them with, earning a disturbing little smile from 2-1, which gives him the shivers. End of chapter.
Yeah.
So there you go, Daughter of the Nine Moons.
Just collecting women on the way. Oh, yeah, take that
So
one. Tie
many.
that one up as well.
Did
Remember, like 3 chapters ago, it was him and 3 Aes Sedai. Now it's Aegiani, it's Domon, it's the warders are with, 2-1's coming, Sir Lucia.
Oh, Matt, Julian's girlfriend.
Oh, yeah. She was also,
Oh.
I think she was also in the plan from the while.
This is now a couple of weeks ago that I read this, and I lost the thread a little bit when you were doing the summary, Joe. Where does all this take place? Is this all in Tylen's apartment?
No,
It's in the
they're
stables.
outside the stables, in the courtyard outside
Right,
the stables.
Okay, yeah. Okay. That's sort of what I remember as well, yeah.
Yeah. So they're standing in the dark in the rain.
Tied up under the bed.
Yes.
Yes.
Where the golem's going to get her.
Yum yum. Golem's got a golem.
He's going to do that. Will, did you have anything you wanted to add in there?
There was something, but I forgot about it now.
Hmm.
It was minuscule. No, I think that's pretty well covered.
All right.
I'll rattle off my little bits and pieces here. So the errand was something that Matt, he tells himself he bloody well had to do. Like, again, Matt doesn't feel like he actually has a choice. Like, he has to help the Windfinders. But unfortunately, we don't find out what becomes of Nestel and the Windfinders that he freed. Like, we can only, because we don't find out specifically, I'm going to assume that in the riots, they escaped.
Yeah, sure.
That caused the
that
ruckus.
definitely happened, yes. Matt's right that Aegeanan did show up exactly when he needed her, so his luck and his Tavern powers are working for him. But I laughed when he thought of, like, he thinks to himself, he had found Aegeanan when, like, it was Baal Domon that found him. You know, like, it was probably his luck and his Tavern nature working for him, but he made to himself, it's like, he's found it. He's found the way out. Suroth learned that an army had vanished in Mirande and hit the panic button, right? So she rushed back here. So she knows about traveling after Rand's attacks on Ebou Dar, obviously. So I guess she needs to make sure her own forces are secure and don't come under attack from a teleporting army. Like, her reaction seemed extreme when an army in Mirande disappeared. But I guess her knowledge of traveling to her would signal, like, that could mean an attack on us. I gotta get back right now.
Yeah, possibly. I didn't think about the specifics of what it meant, but I know that she must be keeping tabs on Egwene's army.
I mean, this news spreads slowly. So, I mean, it is a bit of a rash. Okay,
That's what I
long
thought. I
ago
was wondering,
did
like, why is
the
she
army
acting this
disappear?
way at that news? You know, like, that was my thinking. But
Maybe
Also,
she got,
maybe...
like-
What?
No, I was going to say maybe she's like stuffed one. I'm done with this now. I'm going back to work.
That's what I think as well. Like, it was just an excuse because she didn't want to be out there anyway.
No, she's got shit to do. Dark friend shit. I love how Matt accepts his fate when he readies for the guards or soldiers to enter the room. So, like, everyone hides in the corners and he stands in the room with, like, he's leaning on his spear or something, and he thinks to himself that if worse came to worse, he could at least leave marks on a few people. Like, with his leg, he doesn't know if he's going to be able to fight his way out, but he's going to leave some marks on a few people.
I have faith in you, Matt. You would have come out on top. Because he thinks maybe it's Death Watch guards,
Yeah.
the Ogier type.
Yes.
Like
Ooh.
he would left a few marks on them. Maybe I don't know. I don't
Their
trust
ankles.
his. Yeah,
Um,
ankles. Yeah.
So when Matt says that he's the husband of, or that the daughter of the Nine Moons is his wife, I apologize for this, but another listener had previously written in or sent in a voice note talking about how this is necessary as part of the ceremony. So I went and I looked up the ceremony, and it is so Tuon is named the daughter of the Nine Moons by Aegenon, causing Matt to speak aloud 3 times that she is his wife, which in turn causes Tuon to smile. Matt later learns that in Seanchan custom, or that Seanchan custom holds that proclaiming the statement aloud 3 times before witnesses completes the wedding ritual for that person. The person addressed as one's spouse has a full year to say to the other person that they are, or say that the other person is their spouse 3 times. So Tuon now has a year. If within a year she says that Matt is my husband, then the ritual is complete and they are married. That is the whole marriage ceremony.
Yeah.
That's all they have to do.
Saves a lot of like wedding fees and venue hire and all that crap.
Catering.
Catering and a band and beer,
Yeah.
a lot of beer.
Open bar.
Open bar, man.
I like that Selucia says, I'll come with you as long as you don't harm her. If you do harm her, I'll kill you. Like so matter-of-factly, and Matt thinks, I can handle a lady's maid. This is no problem. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
so like her ruse is definitely working. Like no one suspects her of being a full-blown like deadly bodyguard. Yeah, and that's it for my notes for that chapter, which leaves only one, our final chapter for this evening, which is chapter 32, called A Portion of Wisdom. Vil, please break us off a portion of your wisdom.
Unfortunately, not very wise. I do have a portion of a chapter summary for you. We have left Matt and his shenanigans with the daughter of the Nine Moons, and we are back with Rand. And Rand is in Farmadding, in disguise, drinking at inns and gathering information. Seems that for the last couple of days, this is all that Rand's been doing. Skulking in
Drinking.
corners and showing crude hand drawings of 2 men that he's after. So he still hasn't found Torval and Galbrand. I can't remember his name now.
Hellbrand.
Not Halbrand.
You'll never
I'll
find him.
just call him Gillian at the moment. It doesn't matter. He's
I
Gillian.
don't remember
Okay.
either.
I got the
Torval and Dean.
got it right, yeah.
all right. Where am I now? There's a lot of talk of the different nationalities that's pulling in, but all the rumors. Now Rand is hearing heaps of nonsense. For a moment, I thought he might be using the power to like eavesdrops by the way that it's described, but then I remembered, formatting,
Can't do it.
no use of the power. It's not happening. News that the stone is under siege. Don't know if that's accurate or if that's really, really old news.
Well, I think the rebels might be like maybe Darlin Cisnera is like holed up in the stone, and the rebels may not be, quite following him yet. It's what Rand sent Alana to go deal with. So also like the quality, like
Very
whether it's under
hadn't
siege or
known.
there's rebels outside the city, like after the news has traveled that far, maybe that's the same thing to people.
Yep. News of a black and swollen body that's been found.
Kisman.
And, the councils and the municipalities assuring everyone that it's not the plague and the sewers are clean. There are no rats here. That is Baden Fane doing some stabbing.
What was Kisman? Remember, he killed Kisman in the street.
I think he's just doing slight slicing more than stabbing.
Slicing.
There was one body.
Okay,
It was
yeah.
just Kisman. I don't think he's killed anyone else. Or that's how I read it. Like in the previous chapters, he did it, and Kisman died a terrible death in the middle of the street. I'm just figuring that that's the story
Yeah.
that reached Rand now.
Hey,
Now,
look, he could have been killing more. This is
It is
what's
fine.
his name? Fane we're talking about,
I think the rumor was about a body, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a body,
think it
yes. And the rumors more around fears of the plague,
'cause it
considering that
presents
it
like
was
the
black and bubbled and swollen
Yeah.
and all of that.
Something.
The what else was I going to say? The Rand is really taken on the strider role, pulling up his hood, sitting in the corner in the dark, drinking mulled wine,
Yeah.
smoking a pipe. Alana is away. He's felt a move now, so she's gone with the other sisters on her quest to the stone. A fellow enters with a pale pink face, and it's not the drawing of Torval. Some of these people were really bad at what they think they found and what they did find for the payments that Rand was handing out. Rand can feel that Min is outside of the city and has also found out that, no, not yet. Lewis is around. He's in his head, quite loudly so, and very unhappy that they're still in farm adding for so long, and the power was not there. He suspects, that being Rand, that the women are leaving to get a little sauce top up. Like they can't handle it. But they don't. He doesn't know what is actually happening yet. He will find out soon enough. But he decides to get up and leave. It is terrible weather outside. Sideways, frozen rain, wind, gusty, and Rand in this foul weather literally walks into Varen, who says, "Ah, finally, I found you. I've been looking for you." Um, Rand asks Varen if she was sent by Catswain, to which she answers no. And she then informs Rand that Catswain's actually out with all the other girls, who's now Nynaeve.
Olivia, Min,
Who's all there? Min, Nynaeve,
Olivia.
Olivia. Yes, that's
Olivia.
our channeling. And other news that Varen drops to Rand is that the Shawnshan are in Ilion already, building camps, and appeared that they'll be moving on the city. So, is that right?
Shawnshan camps are no, they're moving. They're building fortified camps and sort of like
Yeah,
expanding
outside,
from Ebou Dar.
Mm.
Yeah, putting themselves in a
but
position to
that's
move on the city.
But between them is Altara, where Rand just pushed
Yeah.
them all back. Now Rand left, and they just went back into Altara
Yes.
and moved on to Ilion.
Yes.
The second he left, it was like, all right, goodbye.
Pretty much.
Everyone carry on.
Pretty much.
Oh, Gedwin
Yes, is the
is the other guy.
other Ashaman.
The not yet dead Ashaman.
Soon enough.
At this moment,
Mm-hmm.
Luce screams out, "She is wrong!" But then Rand suppresses the fly in his head back again. Rand tells Varen that he wants to talk to Catswain, and then if she thinks that she will listen, and Varen says, "Yes, yeah, she will, but you're gonna have to up your manners levels. Like you're talking to Granny now. You gotta be respectful."
The thing she says to Rand is that Catswain doesn't care about rank and title and that sort of thing. She's much more concerned with whether you're a fool or not. If you can show her that you're not a fool, she will listen to you. And he takes that to heart.
Yeah, Rand wants her to be his advisor. And then Varen eventually says, like, "Okay, cool, come tonight. She'll be at the palace. We're staying at the palace through some very devious planning techniques." Varen just informs Rand at that end that there isn't almost a better choice to have an advisor than Catswain. Like, anyone else that's better would still not be good enough, or that he thinks. Rand then goes back to his inn. At the same time, more or less, Lan walks in, and they see each other across the room, do high fives, and grab a ale. Lan is also aware with Rand shares the information about Catswain going out for rides with Nynaeve, and it's like, "Yep, yeah, I know. It's told not to tell you." Nynaeve has made some real sacrifices, Lan lets him know, for this ability to hang out with Catswain, and we can only think that she had to eat a little bit of humble pie in some way to get these lessons from Cat Swain that they've been having. But now the girls have all returned and they've walked into the inn as well. Nynaeve donning all of her fabulous trinkets, and he asks Min, Rand that is, if she enjoyed a ride with Cat Swain, and immediately Nynaeve look at Lan and puts her arms on her hips, fists on her hips, and Rand's like, no, Nynaeve, he didn't tell me. Varen told me. And Lan's like, phew, wipes his brows.
Bullet dodged.
Bullet dodged. Nynaeve, oh, sorry. First, Rand shares his plans about Cat Swain and wanting her to go see her and asked to be her advisor. Olivia is very impressed with Cat Swain. She's a good teacher. She's like a lot of skill. Like there's value in her. Cat Swain also showed Nynaeve what some of her trinkets do. One is well, and the other one the ability to pick up who's a man or woman channeling somewhere, and supposedly even should be able to point the direction. And then Olivia pipes in like, oh yeah, you really enjoyed that too much that you didn't know how that portion works. And then Nynaeve's like, me, 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 me. But what Rand hears is that Cat Swain has something to tell him someone's channeling a man, because if she knows that, and then if she knows about that belt being a well, then that means she has one, then that means she can channel in Farmadding. So Rand puts the things quite deftly together. And then a letter arrives that's given to Min. It's for Rand. It's kind of like the innkeeper almost playing at like, you should know if some other woman sent letters to your man. Anyway, it's not a letter from
It's more that like the
Varen,
women are
as
in
is-
charge. Like women get the correspondence and can share it with the man if they choose.
Well, Min tries to do just that, read it and chuck it in the fire, but Rand does get his hands on it. Basically, a quick recap of the letter. I know who you are, and I wish you well. Grisman and Torval is the two men that is needing some murdering.
Who?
And
Gedwin.
Edwin.
yes, so Torval and Gedwin have taken and given the exact this room, that bed, this in. Like, go kill them, get your job done, and get out of Farmadding. Thank you very much
Fuck
for coming.
off.
So that probably be from the council, I would suspect.
Yeah, that's my question. Who wrote this?
I know.
Sounds like someone who's interested in the well-being of the city,
Matters
not
of Farmadding.
Would you like to know
Yeah.
who wrote the letter?
Varen.
Please.
Hayden Fane.
Ah.
Yes. It's in a,
Okay.
It's
No,
in a,
then my
spidery
theory-
hand
Utter
with no
silence.
with no signature.
Mm.
It's Fane.
Fine.
Okay.
Still in the mix.
Oh yes. Next chapter.
It's all mixing
or
about.
the next couple chapters are 100 miles an hour. Action, 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 action.
Sweet. I've been waiting for that. Oh, Willie, is that the end?
Oh, yeah. And this is the part where I usually say the end.
Right.
Okay. Because I just turned the page after that letter and the chapter ends.
Yes.
So just to clarify.
Yeah, Joe, what did you have? I've only got 4 points in this chapter.
I just wanted to talk about that letter and who wrote it, but that has now been answered. Moving on. Point 1 of 4, Moritz.
Point 1 of 4.
What have we got?
Varen's appraisal of Olivia is that she knows almost every way possible to destroy something with the one power, but nothing else. Like
Well, yeah.
400 years of being a weapon will do that.
400 years of being a weapon,
Yeah.
that's what it will do to you.
But that's useful, right? Like that's useful to Rand. That's cool to have the most powerful female channeler on the light, on the side of the light, at his side, as a weapon. And then a pretty cool and accurate summary of Cat Swain by Varen, which is the thing I said about she cares little for titles or rank. She cares much more whether someone is a fool or not. Show her that you're not a fool, and she will listen. And then the name of the chapter is from a little quote from Lan, who says, "You can never know everything," Lan said quietly. "And part of what you know is always wrong, perhaps even the most important part. A portion of wisdom lies in knowing that, and a portion of courage lies in going anyway." Lan with his little,
God damn it,
his
Lan.
little sayings, his little warrior poet sayings from the Borderlands. I wonder if that's a Shannara or
Yeah.
a Valkyrie thing. My last note, Jody, is we find out in the next episode who wrote this letter and the spidery hand and no signature makes sense.
Yes.
We are a
Now
spoiler
in
cast.
hindsight, it's like, duh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I can highly recommend these last couple of chapters. I think you guys should go get stuck into them. It's good shit.
I will.
But from the chapters that we have covered, have you guys remembered to pick your favorite moments?
Sort of.
Yeah, there's favorite moments.
Very
Shout
non-committal
out.
from both of you.
That was my favorite moment.
I've-
That Billy sounds he just
I have
made
one
right
favorite
now.
moment and 3 honorable mentions.
My favorite moment is Matt. That's it. Everything Matt said and did in these 5 chapters. And I'm not even joking.
I mean, it's hard to look past like the mastermind of this like big scheme, like actually making things go and then sort of like adapting as things go along and then making like his own changes to the plan and jeopardizing his own chances. But in a very Matt kind of way, like trying to do the right thing while still taking gambles and stuff. It's cool shit. This is what we want to read about Matt, right? Like him being a sneaky sneak.
Sneak. Just the one negative thing about Matt in this is by going to the Windfinders first and not directly to Tylen's apartments, he would have missed Tylen. She would have not been there if he had gone first, and he wouldn't have tied her up. She wouldn't have been easy prey for a golem. But then, if the golem was coming to that room anyway to look for Matt, whether she's tied up or not, I don't think she stood a chance. So I don't know.
No. She would have stayed there that night. So, I mean, she probably would have been dead
Yeah.
anyway. If Matt wasn't there, it probably would have killed her.
But Matt's going to blame himself.
Yes, of course. How about you, Vil?
Well, there's a few off-page things, but I'll only address one. That bet that's been going around between the servants of when
Yeah.
Matt's going to run. The reason Tylen knew immediately when she came back is because someone had to run in and give her fair share of the money. She's like, "Yeah, I'll break him by this day. You'll be gone then." This is a ruse. It's all a scam.
Like it's her first
Yeah,
maid,
but-
the one that she has the closest bond with. She comes and is like, "Pay up, mistress. I told you he was going to leave."
Come on.
Yeah.
Pay up. It's always good to read about Alva and his shenanigans and what is important to him still after now living in palaces and all the rest. He has his feather, his red hawk feather, which I love to see that and all the little bits that he grabs, and he's like, he's happy to go on the road. And yes, no, it won't work out with Roselle. Like he's broken
Yeah.
up with her.
Yes. I don't think it's going to work, Roselle.
Yeah, Oliver.
I don't think it's gonna work.
Always a source of entertainment. Like such a little mini Matt, and like, just love everything about him. Vil,
What you got?
did you ever? I mean, okay, I shouldn't actually ask you because you haven't read Memory of Light. But Jody, you remember what Oliver does in the final book, right?
No.
You don't. Okay, then I won't spoil it here.
No.
It's not necessary to spoil.
No, it's
But
spoiled.
Oliver's
Definitely not
got some
necessary
good
to
shit
spoil
coming.
now.
Yeah, no, that's cool. My favorite moment is Matt freeing the Windfinders. So when he hears that Nestel lady spit in the dark, he knows what's happening and he spits in his own hand before shaking hers. And she says to him, "I will remember you. You are a great and a good man." And his response is, "I'm just a gambler."
Told you. Matt, everything Matt says and does.
Typically. I mean, my next 2 honorable mentions are both Matt related as well. One of them is Matt using the Aes Sedai, twisting of their words on an Aes Sedai, which is just such sweet justice. And then when Noel asks Matt, "Do you often have this sort of trouble with women?" Matt's response is, "Always."
Yep. It's your own fault, Matt.
So good. So good. My last honorable mention is when Nynaeve tells Rand that she and Catswain will work out their differences with a little time, and that she doesn't dislike Catswain. Rand glances at Lan, who just shrugs and takes a drink. Like, Rand is like, am I hearing this from Nynaeve? And Lan is just like, hey man, don't ask any questions. I'm not going to say anything.
Leave it alone.
Stay.
Yeah. All right. Well, then, to our listeners, send us your favorite moments, your theories, your corrections, cool bits of lore, or even just say hello. You can do that via X at Blood and Ash Pod, or go to our website, bloodandashespodcast.com, where you can leave a text or voice message. You can even buy a t-shirt. I still love the Beefy Boy one the best. After going to the website, please rate or review our podcast on your preferred podcast app. We really appreciate them, and they help to grow the show. With a wider audience, we can have even more contributions and discussions, which is why we started the show to begin with. When you've done all of that, you can prepare yourself for next time on Blood and Ashes, the Winter's Heart finale. We only have 3 chapters left, so that gives us a nice bit of room to talk about the book as a whole. Those 3 chapters are Chapter 33, called Blue Carp Street, Chapter 34, The Hummingbird's Secret, and Chapter 35, With the Coudenkull. I mean, I think we know what's happening there. We'll pick our favorite moments from the final 3 chapters and then have a chat about the book as a whole and pick our favorite bits from the entire volume. So send in your final thoughts on the climax of Winter's Heart and the book as a whole as well. You'll have some extra time because on the weekend of our next scheduled recording, I'm going to Melbourne to hang out with Willie in person for the first time in quite a few years now. So we'll be skipping a cycle of releases. That means we record again on Sunday, the 24th of November, giving you all plenty of time to finish Winter's Heart and formulate your thoughts to send to us. Since we're in Australia and ahead of most people not named Gerald, maybe work with the submission deadline of Saturday, the 23rd of November, to make sure you get your comments in before we have the book discussion. But until we do that fun thing, I will say to all of you, sleep well and wake.
Goodbye.
Yes.